Folks, hello and welcome to a very special, kind of like when you were kids and you had this very special afternoon.
Remember the
This
after
is
school specials? You always
extra
had
special.
a very
We have an
a
extra
very
special.
special one means that it was. Mhm.
hmm So, I am obviously Eric Tenkar. To my screen, is it my screen right? My screen, my screen right.
Yes.
Wait. There we go. There we go. Uh, is Bad Mike Battleotto. We are going to shortly be joined by Ty Beard to
Yeah.
discuss the wonderful countersuit by Wizards of the Coast against TSR. Now, for some strange reason, my share screen is not working properly, or else
Mm.
I would put up the lawsuit as we have it. But I'm going to go through some of the
Well,
comments that we have right
first
now.
things first. First things first. I'm breaking in a birthday bottle of bourbon. Thank you, John Lyle. And I just tore the wrapping off. Oh,
Oh shit!
Basil Hayden's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And since this is a very special episode in all caps.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I can hear it pouring.
Now, back when you were a kid, so you have these whatever ABC, CBS, NBC extra school specials. You every once in a while you'd have what's called a very special episode, and they would like go a very special episode. They're like really so it was either somebody was gay, either a parent or the kid. They had to explain it, or there was something really bad happened, like probably a rape or an assault, or so something. It was way more serious than the usual after school special, which usually dealt with somebody getting stoned and the parents find out and everything gets really sad. And so, but this isn't like that. Our very
No,
special episodes are
they're
not
special.
going to be solemn and sad, and we have to look real serious about our very special episode. No, no, no. This is almost going to be like celebrate. Not a celebration, but it's just it's kind of like when you're watching like a show like Lost, and you watch for season after season, and finally you get to the end. You get toward the end, like, man, this is going to be ending pretty soon. Like you're Buffy the Vampire Slayer last season, you got maybe 5 episodes to go. You're like, ooh, this is really building up to something. This is kind of what we're dealing with here, right? Because this sounds like it might be the beginning of the end for new
Or the
TSR,
end of the beginning. I don't
or
know
the end
which
of the
one it
beginning.
is, Mike. I don't know.
So
Now,
we're gonna do some recapping here and some Ty. As you notice, Ty Beard is not here right now, but we expect him soon. So we're gonna do a little recap here of what we got going on here with
Ty said he might be a few minutes late to start without him. He would join us in progress.
typical lawyer.
And
We're probably getting billed for this time anyway.
fuck him. If
He's
he's
gonna bill
billing
us.
me, fuck it. I'm billing it to the con. God damn it.
Yeah, we're not paying for this. Come on. By the way, uh, donations will be accepted tonight. If you would like to see more very special episodes, all in caps, of Talking Crit, or any of the other ones. I mean, you might have a very special episode with Glenn or Joe the lawyer. I mean, you can have very special episodes
Oh,
with almost anybody.
we've gone beyond Joe the lawyer now. It is now the random generated party. That is.
Oh,
Oh yeah. No. Now we have like people like Tim Shorts and Matt Jackson and Rob Conley.
wow! It's
Oh
classing,
yeah, no.
definitely classing it up.
Greg Christopher. Now he's probably fucking back from
Jeez.
France.
Bait and switch. I was promised Ty. Look,
Oh, you know what?
you should be happy with. Come on.
Listen.
You can go Nick
All
Reiketa
due
and see like
respect to
8
the
hours of
bold
time.
fuck. Okay, all due respect to the bold fuck, but go from there. No.
So anyway, if you would like to see more very special episodes, hit the donation button and send us a buck or two, because that money, as you well know, if you are paying with us very much, it gets well spent. Eric uses it to buy presents for everybody, or to back certain things, like a room at North Texas where you can just drink booze all day and pass out.
Yeah.
Well, but don't do that. I mean, it's a family con.
No, the passing out part
little,
is not part of the.
no. Drink a little booze and pass the bottle
drink a
around.
little booze, have fun tonight. Now, earlier tonight. By the way, before I had a full day before this. Had to run errands with take my father to a doctor's appointment, all this other shit. So when we came home, I was like, "Fuck, I need food. My blood sugar's going low." Down to the pub we go. Down to the pub, we had some lunch, had some vino, and I was like, "Rach, it's doing a live stream tonight. It's a bonus live stream. Maybe I won't do the Thursday night Discord hangout." And you know what my wife told me?
What?
Do you know what Rachel told me, Mike?
What?
She told me, "You can't do that." I go, what do you mean I can't do that? She goes, "No, people need that as an escape. You're fucking doing Tuesday night."
Wow. She can be ugly. She can be ugly when she needs to be.
She can be.
Yeah.
Tom is glorious naked. Tom,
okay. TMI. TMI. TMI.
There's more information than I needed to know. Yes, they're still trying to kickstart Bad Mike's whiskey jug. We don't need to kickstart that.
Yes. Thank you. We need to sponsor me. I need Basil Hayden or Balcones Blue needs to start sponsoring me. I'm really upset.
Yeah.
Although I haven't been
put on more clothes is called the Midnight Auction.
Yes.
Yes.
If you want to sponsor the Midnight Auction, please, talk to us about that also.
We beg you.
You never know. Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see. We have. Oh, look! Somebody donated $1. Wow.
Oh, wait! Hold on a second. That person is fucking Bad Mike. I don't think that's counting. Bad Mike gave $1, so the stream would be 70
anybody
cents.
match Bad Mike's $1?
He could have given me a free feel for that, and I would have been very happy. But in any case,
I thought it was funny. The default was $10. I'm like, hell no! I went all the way down to $1.
I don't think so.
So anyway, we are going to. Okay, well, let's just do a recap of what we're looking at here. So
okay.
Last year, we're not going to go into all the nuTSR. God, you guys are sick of that by now. We're just going to go into the legal stuff. So the legal actions last year were, well, we didn't find out about them until after they had come because nobody said anything about it. And then you had a source that clued you in that, hey, there's some legal stuff going on here. And so explain exactly what happened last year in the cases that were brought up.
All right. So now here's the interesting part. So little things that got revealed. So initially when TSR was incorporated, it was incorporated in the state of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. However, in November of 2021, it was also incorporated and headquartered in the grand state of North Carolina. Now, why would that happen?
Okay.
Why would North Carolina be an issue? Why, right? Like Judge and Hobby Shop, Wisconsin, TSR, Wisconsin. Why are we suddenly in North Carolina? Well, the reason why we're in North Carolina, and I'm going to just double check this and see if my share screen is still fucked up. And it's still fucking my ass.
No.
It's still fucking my ass.
Ouch.
What happened is that Justin decided, since in June of 2021, he got one of those bad boy letters from Woods of the Coast. They said, "Hey, I think you're violating our trademarks." And
it was a C&D. Maybe not. It wasn't exactly a C&D though, was it? It was close to a C&D.
It was pretty much, "Hey, you're fucking with our shit. Can you please stop fucking with our shit?" So, Justin, or TSR, I shouldn't say Justin yet.
Yeah.
TSR did the following. TSR abandoned a handful of trademarks of, quote, TSR, the graphical ones, that they had initially secured or tried to secure. They abandoned them and said, "Hey, we don't want these. But we still want the Wizard in the Moon that Darlene did. We want that one still."
Right.
And we still want Star Frontiers. And I think we'll keep those, and maybe the rest can kind of... Oh, and the Lizard Man, which we withdrew because it isn't our Lizard. It's a new Lizard Man, right? And what they did was they incorporated also in North Carolina and said, hey, we are situated in North Carolina. Let's sue Wizards of the Coast, file legal action, and have them reveal how they actually have rights to all of these trademarks, which we
So
think
just because they say it's so doesn't mean it ain't.
right.
Maybe it ain't so.
And
They're saying it's so, and it's worth noting that the person who owned the TSR trademark before Justin LaNasa, Jason Elliott, was never contacted by TSR in this way whatsoever, which is a perfect argument why you don't poke the bear, right?
Right.
You poke the bear is going to bite your hand off. So Jason, to the best of our knowledge, never poked the bear. He did not.
Jason had good relationship with Wizards of the Coast.
He never said he was the original TSR. He never said he created anything. He didn't intimate that this is the same TSR as was around 30 years ago. He didn't do any of that. None of that stuff at all.
Right.
He was very, very respectful of TSR. So WotC left him alone and didn't bother. He didn't get bothered.
Right. So what happened? What happened? Sorry, I'm trying to give my proper South Bronx. What happened at that point was that apparently TSR figured, all right, before we get sued, let's sue Wizards of the Coast. Good offense is the best defense, right? So let's go for it. Yes, you bald-headed fuck. There's still no tie.
Wow. Hold on. We're doing this like you're supposed to. We're just building suspense here. So just calm down. Listen to us. We'll have tie eventually. So just
Are we gonna tie one on? When tie shows up, we'll tie him up. All right.
Yeah.
You'll have your tie.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have your tie and then some. But what happened was that TSR filed suit in North Carolina federal court, and the first thing that Wizards of the Coast said was, hey, we are in the state of Washington. If you're gonna file a suit against us, you got to be compliant to the federal rules, and that's file in the state that we actually are in. So, but why was it important? Again, I'm going to spitball a little bit here. So if you don't like my spitballing, all right,
do it.
There we go. I'm going to spitball. Why was it important that TSR file suit in North Carolina as soon as they did? Mike, do you have a thought?
No, I'm interested to hear. I'm pretending I'm the guy that just doesn't know what's going on. So I want to hear this.
Oh,
too.
you know what's going on.
I don't know.
Here's the reason why. They needed their evil bag of shit to do their Indiegogo and say, we're fighting. We're up against the big guy. We're fighting the bully.
Well, what was us? We're David. That's Goliath. Please send us some money to help us out.
We're only looking to raise $50,000. They raised a little bit over $6,000. So
that's more than I thought. That they did better than I thought. I'll tell you that.
By the way, somebody did point out on Facebook earlier tonight that $2,000 was $1,000 Indiegogo grant or support.
Oh, you think somebody seeded it? So somebody
it looked like it was a seeding of. Look! Somebody believes in us enough to give $1,000. Nobody.
That's happened before. Yes, people that has actually happened. People will seed because usually things reach a critical mass the more they keep rolling. So what some people, unscrupulous people, will do is they'll seed their own Indiegogo and make it look like, wow, people are already donating to the Indiegogo. I better jump on this, this train.
I got to be part of this because look, people believe it's $1,000 to $1,000. $1,000 is $1,000. Oh my God, dude. I'm not saying that somebody was trying to give you a handy, but somebody was trying to give you a handy because nobody's in for $1,000 in this bullshit.
No, I think that was a seed. That was a seeder. So,
but
I agree.
In any case, So what happened after they filed in North Carolina and Wizard of the Coast was like, yeah, I don't think so. They quickly withdrew their filing. Now, here's where it becomes interesting. Their initial lawyer was also the lawyer who handled the initial trademarks. So obviously somebody that Justin had a personal relationship to some extent. That was in the past, handled the trademarks, and then now they go to the state of Washington. They need a new law firm, which means this is money coming out of the pocket of TSR, LaNasa, Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum. And that was, the initial lawsuit, I think, was filed. Don't quote me on this. The initial lawsuit was either filed on the 5th or 6th of December. It was then withdrawn, and I believe on the 29th of December, or around the 28th of 2021, the new legal action was filed in federal court in the state of Washington. Now, TSR was already dealing with a suit from Wizards of the Coast in trademark and copyright court, but a legal action for the trademark, that is, they bragged that, oh, that's been dismissed, or wasn't dismissed. It's held in abeyance. Basically, it has to play out in civil court and the federal courts before they can actually abdicate the bag of poop in trademark court, or trademark, I don't know, abdication, or whatever the fuck it is. So therein like that. So what happened was, all that was laying low, and then all of a sudden, on the 4th of this month, now we're on the 8th, so this is 4 days later, somebody shit the bed. And when I say somebody shit the bed, is that Wizard of the Coast did a countersuit. And it is my understanding that Justin was surprised by the countersuit. And I don't know. I would not be surprised by a countersuit. You've just, you've just kicked the 2,000-pound bear in the nads.
You got the impression that I think in the back of his mind, and I'm speaking for a guy that's weird, so I don't. Nothing he does is logical, but I really think they thought that this was beneath them and they weren't really going to deal with it. So they kind of thought they could get away. They could get away with a lot, and as in most cases, stuff that LaNasa does, he absolutely miscalculated, because that finally did push him over the edge to where they're like, you know what, let's take the trash out.
And therein of itself is a huge issue, because when you, all right, I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm actually going to quote something from October 16th, 2020. This was actually used in the Wizards of the Coast filing from earlier this month. Page 16, if you're filing from home. Prior videos do have the link to the filing. Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum claims ownership of classic TSR logos, offers to license them to OSR publishers from the prior day. That'll be, I guess, October 15th of 2020. Now, this is where it gets, when you're damned with your own words, you really can't be damned.
And this is where Wizards of the Coast started paying attention, because basically what they were saying is, look, how would you like to publish something for the original game publisher, TSR? Well, you can. You give us some money and we'll let you use the TSR logo. And you're right. That's pretty much where WotC said, okay.
Well, but not only that, here's the whole thing. When it comes to trademarks, right? When you're saying your trademark is still in use, part of that is the muddying the muddying of the marketplace. And there was no muddying of the marketplace with TSR 2, all right?
No, Jason
Um,
didn't. Yeah, he made it perfectly
Jason
clear.
never
He
claimed to
was not the
be,
original TSR. He was not
right,
the original TSR. Yes.
not the original TSR. Didn't try to make a trademark or a graphical trademark
Yeah.
that looked like the original TSR trademarks. Now,
Trade.
mind you, when this was being offered for license, there were no federal trademarks secured. This was all state trademarks. Oh ho ho! Interesting, right? So, and by the way, this is also the time frame when Justin decided to threaten me with legal action, because I didn't understand what was going on, and I should watch what I say. And I'm gonna say this with no personal, well, all right, maybe a little personal, but Justin, okay, Schadenfreude means a lot, and I'm a German. And I
Always class. We try to keep it classy on the show.
Yeah, well, that's we're gonna do a visual. I enjoy a little Schadenfreude. Okay, you threatened me with legal action right around this time because you don't understand trademarks. You know, I understand trademarks very well. Okay, and state trademarks carry virtually no fucking weight. All right, but you know you want a carpet bag, you can carpet bag. So here, I'm gonna give you your actual quote from the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum. Now, who 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 do you think was actually sharing this out for the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum? Which, by the way, TSR is an LLC. The TSR Hobbies or whatever they call themselves is an LLC, but it is also a single owner LLC. I mean, who calls the shots? There's nobody else that's got any kind of written contract,
Right.
to my knowledge. I know of verbal contracts, but there's no written contracts. Okay. And the same thing with the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum. So now, at this point in time, TSR Incorporated did not exist. TSR, whatever, LLC, became an LLC after this. So when these trademarks were secured, they were secured by Mike. Who secured the trademarks for the various TSR properties?
I don't know. I'm just watching this like these guys here.
Justin LaNasa.
Well, that's shocking. See, I wouldn't have guessed it would have headed in that direction. I don't know anything about this, but now I'm finding out all this.
Justin formed the LLC of TSR, he then went, I'm going to transfer the shit over. By the way, probably a very foolish thing to do, as I suspect Ty will tell us when he comes on, is the idea that Justin pretty much named himself in the countersuit by saying, yeah, I filed for all these graphical trademarks, and then I transferred them to the LLC that I was the sole owner of. How does that work? But guess what? You've now put yourself in the bag of shit. So, would like to announce that TSR has been successfully resurrected. Would we like to talk about muddying the waters? You muddied the waters because you're not the original TSR. There are other screenshots that show Justin trying to hint that the new TSR is the direct inheritor of the original TSR. But
I saw somebody I think on the, so every once in a while on Tenkar's Facebook page, you get somebody that pops in and they're kind of a concern troll, and they, I don't know if really he's that bad a guy because this. And so somebody popped on today or yesterday and said, why are they being so mean to LaNasa? Because this other guy, he owned the trademark beforehand, and they didn't, and TSR didn't, or WotC didn't do anything to him. And so people had to explain to him the whole poking the bear theory, right. But also the fact that they were never. So there's so many issues to this. First of all, Jason's version of TSR never intimated or never said that we are the original TSR. We're continuation of the TSR. Never pretended to be the original TSR. Never tried to sell the trademark to anybody that they knew they didn't know, because they didn't own it. They knew he knew they didn't own it. There's a lot of differences there, and it just goes to show that if you're stupid, you can get in a lot of trouble. If you're stupid, you're playing with fire,
Right.
And that's exactly what was going on here. And I really do think my theory is I really think in the back of his mind, LaNasa thought this was too little for WotC to deal with, and so I think it has a lot to do with his career and his life. The guy's a tattoo artist. He's a biker, and those guys, nothing against either of those. I know people are tattoo artists. I know bikers. It's just that a lot of them, they get to where they're at by basically being a badass or projecting that they're a badass. They might not be a badass, but you can't show weaknesses. You can't show weakness to that kind of. So I just think once he started going with this thing, he just kept rolling, because I'm not going to backtrack, and he's never doesn't backtrack. He won't backtrack, which is not very smart, because if he ever needed to backtrack, it would have been right about then. That's when he needed to just kind of disappear for a while, or say, oh, okay, well, I really can't. I'm not going to sell these. Although it might have been too late by then. Really, it may have been too late at that point. He was going to get hammered, no matter what, because you can't even have the threat of that out there, and that has, like I said, it has to do with trademark stuff. You can't muddy the waters like that and create.
And that's the whole thing, muddying the waters. TSR2, Jason Elliott's TSR, never muddy the waters. And when they were working on the new Top Secret game, they reached out to Wizards of the Coast and said, hey, are we going to cause any issues, any problems, anything like that? And the issue was, no, you're not. You're fine. And they worked with Wizards of the Coast.
But they also created for that. So TSR, people also ask about that. And the reason, so TSR, Top Secret, the new version of Top Secret is not the old version of Top Secret, because they didn't have the rights to that. This is a brand new version created by the boy, Hammock and Rasmussen and all those guys. Brand new rule system. Now it's very like the original rules, but it's not. And that was something else. Just has been really muddying the waters with this Star Frontiers bullshit. That, and the whole thing is this: Star Frontiers, they don't own the rights to Star Frontiers. They own the game. They own the rights to Star Frontiers, the name. They don't own the game, and so
they don't fully own the rights to it either. Okay.
Right.
If do I still have? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. Star Frontiers. Let me refresh my. Okay, so they filed for an extension on the notice of approval of extension. So they had a TEAS extension that they sent in. That's the pretty much you were going to time out. Are we using it? We'd like to extend it. And they filed the extension December 21st and December 23rd. The extension request was accepted. They have not secured the trademark. It is new application filed or first extension granted. It is not secured. They do not have it. Now, the trademark prior to this was abandoned by none other than what is it? Purple Hat Games?
Evil Hat Games.
Evil Hat. Take a purple hair. Yeah. Evil Hat Games. Evil Hat Games had applied for the Star Frontiers trademark, and that got abandoned. Why? Because Wizards of the Coast apparently decided to ask, you know what, we're still using this. And how were they still using this? They were using it because they were selling reprinted material through where else? Drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it was still in use. It was still active. Well, guess what? I don't want to, ruin a punchline here, but all of these trademarks that that Wizards of the Coast owned and TSR was trying to usurp are actively used on Drive-Through RPG. So now that would, to a lot of us, that would be all right. Well, yeah, So why would you, in the case of TSR Dungeon Hobby Shop, why would you take these graphical trademarks before you even secured them federally? And now most of them are abandoned after supposedly being secured, except for the wizard head. The wizard head, which was done by Darlene, who got the Darlene, we like you.
Oh, really
The video. We would never
cringy,
do
very
anything.
cringy video, very cringy
We
video.
would
Yes.
never do Gargamel from the Smurfs. Sorry,
Darlene, we would never do that to you. Yeah, yeah.
thank you. You do better than I do, Mike. I
Darlene,
can't do a
we
bad
would
North
never do that to
Carolina.
you at my TSR. We would
However,
always treat you wonderfully.
we, however, should you decide not to support us in our endeavors, it might just be that the courts might decide that you personally might get drawn into this. I can't say one way or the other. Please don't take this as a threat.
I am not threatening you, but actually, I am threatening you.
Yeah, I mean, it was cringeworthy. And by the way, uh, for the small number of viewers of this channel that watch me cover that, and like, just play it straight through. Now, you can't do that with material that is
No
copyright
can
somebody
do.
else. I got a comment on it, and I did comment on it, and LaNasa / Gargamel did a great job presenting their position that we're not threatening you, but we're threatening you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, okay. So now, again, I am somebody who has been threatened with legal action because of my coverage of TSR. And I would like to think that my coverage of TSR speaks for itself. I deal with screenshots. I deal with material that you can look at, that you can digest and say, holy fuck, all right, Tenkar. I might not agree with what Tenkar's conclusion is, which might be wrong. That's certainly possible. But I
Mm-hmm.
can look at it and go, all right, well, at least Tenkar is on point with his source material. I can understand why Tenkar thinks like he does, even if he's totally off base. I'll accept that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That's not a bad way to look at it. But I personally think Justin's Achilles heel is Justin because he puts a lot of shit into print on screenshots that most sane litigants are going to look at and go, going back to the Dungeon Hobby Shop thing, would like to announce that TSR has been successfully resurrected. Anyone there's an OSR game publisher, game designer, or fantasy book publisher that would like to be licensed to use any of these 5 trademarks, feel free to contact them. Now,
This is generally why most attorneys, actually probably all attorneys, will tell you not to say anything until your attorney is present, or they don't like their clients on social media. They don't like their clients talking to the news stations, because no matter how innocuous the question or how much you think you're in the right, you're bound to say something that's going to fuck you over. And that's why the person who you're paying money to, the lawyer, is somebody you should listen to. And that's why you don't talk about these things, because you end up incriminating yourself all the time. We see people do this, all the time in real life. And I'm sure as a cop, you've seen this too, Eric. Some guy, hey, did you break into that store over there? Well, no, because I was breaking into this one over here. So okay, hey, let's talk about that. And you see that stuff happening all the time. And so that's the problem. That's why you're not really supposed to get. And that's actually, I think, one of the reasons he hired Michael Havermill to begin with, was because he couldn't stop putting his foot in his mouth. And I think Michael tried to help him, but his hands were tied, because if I have a piece of shit here and you want me to build a sandcastle out of it, I'll try, but it's still a piece of shit. It's not going to really
fall
work.
through my fucking hands if it's a sandcastle.
It's going to stick to my hands. It's going to smell bad. So that's the whole thing. Is he was trying to do some some crowd control for LaNasa and TSR, but you can only go so far,
Wow.
And then I think that was his problem. You can always, whenever you saw Michael Havermill video, it was always kind of failed smile on his face because he knew that I'd rather be anywhere but here. I'm doing this, but I'd rather be anywhere but here. And so, that's why the worst thing you can do, like I said, every lawyer will tell you just shut up. Don't you get arrested? What do they tell you to do? Shut up. Don't say anything. I'll be there to bail you out in an hour or whatever. Don't say anything to anybody. If the cop says, nice day, isn't it? Don't talk to him. If somebody in the cell next to you wants to know what you're in for, don't say anything. He could be a plant. I mean, they tell you shut up. And this guy doesn't know the meaning of the word shut up.
Well, Mike, do you know who was in charge of their social media before Michael Havermill?
It wasn't Stephen Deinhardt, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was? Stephen Deinhardt's having, by the way,
a fucking train wreck.
By the way, Stephen Deinhardt's having quite a few belly laughs at his ex-partner's expense because whenever we think about the Giantlands game, I don't think it's a very good game. I'm going to have to say Deinhardt kind of gets a thumbs up when it comes to revenge porn type stuff because he has just absolutely been hammering, and I'm pretty sure it's Deinhardt that's been hammering LaNasa online because he seems to have a hard on for LaNasa. So at least at least he published something. He published Giantlands is published. You can buy Giantlands.
It's on sale. It's discounted.
Yes.
Don't miss out on the opportunity to get a discounted shitty game. My opinion, I'm not saying it. My opinion holds more weight than yours does. I'm just saying it's discounted, and I personally think it's a shitty game. I don't care whose name is on the tin. Mm-hmm. No disrespect.
But you know what? It's a game. It's a game that's been released by a company, which is more than you can still say for nuTSR, who, by the way, still hasn't released copies of Vince's Cult of Abaddon and still hasn't released anything. There's no hint that the new Star Frontiers, if it really even exists, is really going to come out anytime soon because he promised to release that at the TSR con. Well, nobody signed up for any games of his, so I think that's his excuse to get out of saying, hey, I'm going to have him coming out with the Star Frontiers because nobody will be there.
Now, not that I'm revealing any huge secrets, but and I'm not saying that I'm trying to do anything illegal, but I happen to have had a straw buyer for the Dungeon Crawl game and Vince's Adventure, because if I sent them to myself, I could expect to have anthrax or some other kind of maybe real poop smeared on the products that I was ordering. So now Dungeon Crawl was supposed to ship at the end of January. Vince's Adventure was supposed to ship at the end of January, right?
Oh yeah, Vince. I thought. Well, it was supposed to.
Guaranteed.
It was supposed to definitely ship. Yeah.
It's stuck in transit. I couldn't tell you what happened.
Well, it's finished. So I don't know why it hasn't been published yet. Sorry, man. It's finished. So get it on out there if you have it, if it's ready to roll. But from what I've seen, none of this stuff's ready to go because their editing process is horrible. Oh, so horrible. Well, it's so bad. So
how do you do your editing? Well, you know what? I just use spell check, dude. I just use spell check. And
we've seen the Cult of Abaddon. We've seen the board game, and
we haven't seen. We've seen
cards for the board game.
Yeah,
and the thing that jumps out, what jumps out at you? Grammatical errors and spelling errors, which are two things you could fix. Those are the easiest things to fix. So that tells me it hasn't been edited. At least it hasn't even been run through spell check or Grammarly. So yeah, that's probably why we haven't seen anything yet. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. Are we eventually ever going to see this stuff? I would think at some point the grift's got to go, right? I mean, at some point you got to nut up or shut up.
Gotta go. Sorry, I like that. It should be a song. The grift's gotta go. I said the grift's gotta go. Sorry, I'm reliving my childhood.
Hey, I got a message from Ty. He wants to know where the link. He wants the link. So send this man
him
the
the
link.
fucking link.
I don't know what he's doing. He's just This is our very prepared.
He apparently may have seen it now.
Okay, there we go. All right.
All right. So we should have Ty shortly.
So we filled you in on what's going on up to here, and so far. So it doesn't look good because it looks like the bluff got called from LaNasa. Like I said, I think he went into this thinking he was below the notice of WotC. Well, they finally noticed him, and so we had a new filing. Or actually, we found out about this new filing recently, and this is pretty much.
By the way, huge thanks to David Floor. Floor. Here's. By the way, to the bald-headed motherfucker out there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, not you.
No.
You're not. You're not
we're talking about the. Who else do we know that's a bald-headed MFer?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Somebody from Fiery Greg. No, Reagan something. I couldn't tell you what publisher they are from, but they have a bald head. And
hey, Ty, did you enjoy your new?
I did.
ADD Players Handbook you guys. It was beautiful shape.
The quality was amazing. It was almost like it was a brand new book.
It was pretty much almost brand new. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's too. I'm glad it went to you and went to a good home. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I did spend the unboxing video, so there's that.
Who knows where it could have ended up at? It might have ended up in the wrong side of the tracks. I mean, somewhere. So yeah, I'm glad it went to you.
There were people bidding on that. So
I'm afraid to even ask.
Let's just say that somebody won. I auctioned off a very nice first edition player's handbook. Let's just say that somebody won it that we might know, and somebody lost it that we may know on the somebody that you're calling the ball-headed motherfucker may have lost it. So. Just that's a little behind, a little inside edition, little inside sports there.
Well, he definitely took the loss in the spirit in which you would have expected.
Oh, definitely, yeah, classy as he is. Yeah. He was very classy the whole time.
Gentlemen, I am so sorry for being late. I had to endure.
You're a lawyer.
No, you're fine.
No,
we did a recap.
I had an agreed party on the other side of a deal that probably fell apart tonight. We'll see. But
you're probably getting paid for that, so we're not paying you. So
yes,
no.
But I was actually accused of being mean to a bunch of downtown New York lawyers.
Whoa!
If you're going to be mean, that's who you're. Be mean to those people. Yeah, definitely be mean to them.
As a New Yorker, and New Yorkers aren't as rude as they are generally assumed to be, but we are a bunch of fucktards when it comes to our own offenses and feeling offended. I understand that. I've seen that.
Ironically, the person complaining is not a New Yorker. I found that you New Yorkers give as good as you get. I mean,
yeah, pretty much. I mean,
y'all can be difficult, but you also tend to be very thick-skinned, and so it all kind of balances out. But I was just kind of sitting here going, are you complimenting me? Are you insulting me? I'm not real sure. I'm pretty sure your lawyers can handle themselves. But so anyway, so yeah. Well, I did all my reading.
I know we were
Yeah, we just did the whole back story of this up until right now. You popped in perfect. You're perfect.
Yeah,
popped in right.
And today, Ty and I were conversing back and forth on Facebook PMs. I was sitting in a parking lot waiting for my father's doctor's appointment to finish, and I'm like, "Oh shit! All right, I'm not near my computer, but how can I find a way to get this stuff to Ty?" So it kind of worked out okay.
Yeah. I had not really paid that much attention to this suit. I had kind of followed you guys a little bit, but mostly just really kind of you know, and you know, caveat: I'm not a trademark and patent IP attorney, which of course means I'm perfectly willing to opine on it.
Well, neither of us are attorneys, and we certainly have a
I deal with this kind of stuff all the time as a business lawyer. If anything really thorny gets involved, I'll bring in help. I've got several, actually an improbable number of attorney friends that are IP guys, but this case doesn't really seem to be that hard.
It isn't that deep. I mean, and Ty, this is coming from somebody who's dealing with the law, has been from the law enforcement aspect, and I testified? Yes. Have I had to help draw up some paperwork? Yes. And I'm looking at this, and this in a non-legal term seems to me, especially with some of the statements that I guess Woods of the Coast attorneys were nice enough to steal from the tavern's blog. It's kind of like stepping on your own penis.
Yeah, and probably so much that you don't even wince anymore.
Oh, see that?
Because wow. I mean, first of all, there's the meta question, right? Okay, of all the people to go pick a fight with, let's pick a fight with the 800-pound gorilla in the hobby.
Well, it's not 800 pounds. It's 300 pounds.
You have to admire their ambition.
You throw Hasbro into the mix, and it's like, hey, we have unlimited funds. Wizards of the Coast, you could say, all right, we've got millions to throw into it. Oh, it's Hasbro. We've got, I don't know.
And companies are really, this has been a trend for the last 20 years, I've noticed, is companies are increasingly very concerned about their IP. And they just, so yeah, let's pick a fight with some huge companies. And so what I did is I read LaNasa's pleadings, his complaint, and what he's doing is he's asking for what we call a declaratory judgment. He's just asking the court to find that they don't have the copyright and that kind of and the trademarks, excuse me.
Right.
The thing about trademark law that clients often don't realize is so that the purpose of a trademark is to prevent the marketplace from being confused. They're not actually concerned with the rights of the owner of the trademark per se. The policy concern here is we don't want the public, see if this sounds familiar, we don't want the public buying one product thinking that it's a product of another company.
Muddy in the marketplace, right?
I'm sitting here reading this thing going, oh my God, this is like the law school example.
Wait. Hey, Ty, now I covered this before you logged in, but
yeah,
page 16, all right, when we have the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum quote, which is probably from Justin, would like to announce that TSR has been successfully resurrected, which means that you are claiming to have a direct and unbroken connection to the original TSR. Anyone that's an OSR game designer, game publisher, or fantasy book publisher that would like to be licensed to use any of the 5 trademarks, feel free to contact us. By the way, I don't know if you realize this, but when he was offering that, he had state trademarks, but he didn't have the full federal trademarks confirmed at that point. Just a little.
Yeah, what I did is, so I looked at his complaint, and I looked at his allegations in his complaint, and then I looked at the Wizards of the Coast response. And one of the things that I do like about federal pleadings in Texas, basically, you just go, I deny the allegations and I deny the alligator. And you don't have to have any specificity or anything, but under federal rules, you've got to actually admit or deny every assertion in there that you can. And if you fail to deny it, then they're deemed admitted most of the time, unless you can't fairly, and there were a couple places where Wizards said, we don't know enough about this to know one way or another. But so what Wizards did is they went in their answer, the first thing they did is they went through every factual allegation that TSR Inc. made, or LLC, excuse me. Is it LLC? Yeah. TSR LLC made, and they basically denied every factual assertion that TSR purported to be relying on. Now, normally you say, well, you don't really want to take either side's view of the facts and the pleadings, right? Because both sides are going to argue their case. But this happens to be an area where I'm a hobbyist, and you guys are too. We know for a fact that TSR has been selling stuff for years online and so forth. That Wizards has been selling TSR stuff online forever. I mean, that right there would seem to be fatal to LaNasa's claim, in my opinion. I did notice, I looked at the original filing that he did in South Carolina, and I don't think they repeated some of the more what I would characterize as completely irrelevant points. In the prior pleadings, they made a big issue of the fact that, this wasn't a work for hire because so-and-so did the work. Well, that's not how it works. The fact is TSR did have TSR did assign. I was actually concerned about that. I was like, well, I hope because what happened was Wizards bought the stock of TSR Incorporated, right? So TSR owned the intellectual property. So if it had stopped at that point, Wizards wouldn't actually be the proper party. TSR would be. But in 2000, Wizards had TSR transfer all their intellectual property out, and they attached. So that was the significance of that assignment that they attached as an exhibit. So, you had TSR owning the intellectual property. They assigned it to Wizards of the Coast. That's valid. You can transfer ownership to them. To abandon a trademark, if you don't affirmatively abandon it, you have to not use it, I believe, for 3 years. And you also have to have an intent not to use it in the future. Well, TSR can rebut that by the fact that they used it, that they sold products with this trademark off and on. So I think, just with what I know, with what we know about the hobby,
right?
I don't think that TSR LLC is going to win this lawsuit. I thought that Wizards lawyers did a very good job in the pleadings. They're very professionally done. Everything was well argued. The only quibble I had, and it is a mere quibble, they missed an opportunity to show there was a point at which they're alleging that TSR LLC is using deceptively similar marks. I would have put the actual original mark and the deceptively similar side by side, but that's a very minor quibble. By and large, I think Wizards can be, their lawyers did them a very good job, and it really was just almost like a textbook, just bam.
Well, so I talked to some other lawyers, Ty. Not that we don't trust your judgment, but I wanted some off the record, totally anonymous. I said their identities would remain safe. One of them said was, when you talk to Ty, ask him about how this went beyond just what a normal file would be, that they were very specific about things, and normally you wouldn't get that specific. So they're really trying to make a point was what this person told me by going into very specific things. So that they're really looking forward to a curb stomping. They're setting up the artillery. I mean, this is a Russian style World War II artillery. Just hub to hub for miles and miles. Well, I mean, you're attacking a very huge piece of the value that Wizards of the Coast has, and this is the thing I'd said earlier, looking at a meta level. I imagine myself. Let's say I represent a client who comes to me and says, "Hey, Ty, we think TSR has let their trademark, or Wizards has let the TSR trademarks lapse. Let's grab them." I'd have said, "Yeah, okay, we can give it a shot." But if they push back, we probably have to fold our cards because they are selling products now,
right?
And maybe you negotiate. Oh no! I think we can keep them. No, not hardly, because here's the thing: probably Wizards didn't pay as close attention to these trademarks as they should have. And what that means is probably some executive inside of Wizards is responsible for that. Well, what are the odds that they're going to pull the stops off to stomp him flat legally, rather than be tarred with the embarrassment of that? So I think it doesn't strike me as anything like a very smart fight to have. I can't, so you can reprint Star Frontiers. I mean, the legal fees from this fight alone are going to wipe out any kind of profits, I would think.
I had another lawyer, I was saying, I know who they are. It was from anonymous.
Well, I hope you know who they are.
Put the value should TSR / Justin LaNasa / the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum lose this legal action. Put the costs somewhere between 250 and 300K.
Very easily. Very
So
easily.
now, Ty, I have a question for you because I think I understand it, but let's. I am not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, and with the exception of the handful of lawyers that I personally know, most lawyers I've dealt with professionally, or
Yeah.
a bunch of assholes. So
I don't
mean,
like lawyers for the most part either. So
you know, so here, I'm going to ask you this. Justin LaNasa initially applied for the visual trademarks in question in his own personal name, secured them, and then transferred the rights to TSR LLC once he established the TSR LLC. Is that what opened the door to Wizards of the Coast naming him in their countersuit?
no, surprisingly not. Although it doesn't help.
Oh, okay.
So you always hear about the corporate, the corporate that owners of corporations and officers and stuff aren't liable for the acts of the corporation. Liability shield.
Right.
But there's a gigantic glaring exception in intellectual property law, where if an officer, director, owner, executive of an entity has, in fact, I'll pull the exact quote up. I didn't find the best quote in the Ninth Circuit where they are, but here is a Ninth Circuit quote. A corporate officer or director is, in general, personally liable for all torts which he authorizes or directs or in which he participates, notwithstanding that he acted as an agent of the corporation not on his own behalf. And then it goes on further to say courts have applied this basic principle to trademark infringement, unfair competition, copyright infringement, and contributory infringement claims. Similarly, an individual owner or officer of a corporation may be held personally liable for their violation of, in this case, the California Business and Professions Code, which is I believe, the unfair trade. So the deal is LaNasa, he's the sole member of this LLC if the allegations are to be believed, and that's something that can easily be determined.
My understanding is that any other. He said that Ernie was an executive vice president. At one point, LaNasa said that Deinhardt, before Deinhardt left the company, was whatever his position was. He gave him an official position. But my understanding, and again, I cannot give you a screenshot, folks, to show where I have my understanding from. But my understanding is, from all my sources, that everything has been done as a verbal contract only, and that nobody has a written contract, including Ernie, to show that they are the executive vice president, which means that, as far as I understand, the LLC has one person named on it, and that would be Justin.
Yeah, I don't know if so there's two kinds of LLCs out there. There's member managed, okay?
Okay.
An LLC that's managed by the owners. And then there's managed, which the LLC has owners, but then they can appoint themselves or other people to be managers, right? But the managers don't actually have to be owners. Either way, I don't think Justin's going to be able to plausibly argue that he wasn't directing this. I saw another thing that I thought was kind of interesting is TSR called him out for purportedly, and again, I'm taking Wizards. I'm taking Wizards out, responses as true for purposes of discussion. I'm not
right.
That. I don't know.
And that would be proven in court or by preponderance of the evidence. And folks that are watching at home and you've watched too many police procedurals, this is not guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's preponderance of the evidence. It's 50.00001%. Okay, where you just need to swing the balance slightly to your side to come out. That's the layman's way of looking at it. So,
yeah, you're right. So what? the striking thing about Wizards, I keep wanting to call them TSR.
No,
The striking things about Wizards factual statements is they're all statements that ought to be very, very easy to prove or disprove.
Right.
If they're, I mean, there's not a lot of ambiguity here. And one of the things that jumped out to me was they called LaNasa out for purportedly lying in his affidavit that he files when he was filing for the trademark, saying that he had no knowledge of anybody else having a claim on this. Now, I don't know this to be true, but typically those things are done under penalty of perjury, and there probably are criminal penalties. If this thing goes into discovery, of course, one of the things they're going to do is depose him, and they're going to ask you, "Did you sign this?
Is this your signature? Because we have a record of it."
So when you said this was after you had gotten a letter from us telling you that we were claiming an interest in this, right? And at that point, you kind of go, "Well, I think I'm going to take the fifth."
Well, but now, Ty, just as an observation, of these trademarks that they were initially trying to license off and to other OSR publishers, they've actually, I believe they relinquished 3. One is been put into some kind of, I don't know, unofficial standing, rotational position by the trademark office. The only one that they still seem to be holding on to is the Darlene Moon Wizard head TSR Wizard logo. Now, since the other ones appear to have been abandoned, that's what my my trademark research showed. At least on the 3, and one seems to be in dispute. It would seem to me to be the idea that somebody blinked and said, "Holy shit, yes, that's the one that they are still, that's the one that they threatened." I shouldn't say that. That's the one where Justin had a video where he told Darlene, "We understand how you feel. We support you 100%. We don't want to get you involved in any legal action, but you might get involved in legal action. And if so, we're sorry. I apologize."
Yeah.
Well, so it was interesting when you read the original filing in was it South Carolina where he originally filed? When you read the original filing, this is a paraphrase of the legal argument they made, but the legal argument seemed to be, well, TSR can't prove it's theirs, therefore it's not, and that is not how it works.
Where's the code? See, time.
Sorry, yeah.
See, time. I'm time out. I'm gonna tell you right now. That is a huge part of the issue because you, me, Mike, 90% of this audience,
we're demonstrating the confusion right here.
We see TSR and we say, "Who's the rightful inheritor of TSR?" Wizards of the Coast. When we look at stuff on drive-through, we see TSR and we go, "Okay, that's Wizards of the Coast."
TSR.
So to the community, all right, to a large extent, to the community, that is one and the same. And Justin, just from that one screenshot that was shown in Wizards of the Coast Countersuit on page 16, folks, I'll put the link in the comment section of this. Page 16, where he goes, "Would like to announce that TSR has been successfully resurrected." It's not the same company. It's not. They're again, I'm a layman, all right? But I was also a cop. And I look at that shit and I'm like, dude, you just stepped on your fucking cock, all right?
Well, that's what I was saying about, because normally, I mean, a big fact issue in trademark is it actually deceptively close? Is it actually likely to lead to confusion? That's a big question.
Yes.
Not in this case.
No.
Statement.
This is a law. I mean, this is a case. This is for a law school trademark casebook.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if this isn't market confusion, I don't know what would be. They are calling themselves TSR. They are explicitly implying that they have somehow come into that they are somehow successors to it. They're using the trade dress. They're using the names. I mean, I don't think Wizards is going to have a hard time at all showing market confusion, in this. And I'm not so technically proficient that I can't say there are no technical flaws in Wizards' pleadings. Nothing jumped out. I mean, their argument, I think, can be summarized as thus: we bought that trademark; it was properly assigned to us, and over the years, we have used it on multiple products in commerce since from 2000 all the way to the present. And we never had any intention to abandon it. These trademarks, we never filed an abandonment of them. And so they're just trying to steal our trademark. I mean, that's the plain English argument that I think Wizard is making. And it's a very good one because we've all bought stuff on drive-through for the last 15 years.
Sure.
And that brings up an interesting thing. If you're drive-through, right? Don't you send emails to every game company out there that's got old product? Sell it through us to keep your trademark alive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you know what? I never thought of that, but you're right, because it keeps it in the marketplace. It keeps it
in commerce.
Live.
In fact, LaNasa in his pleadings, in the South Carolina pleadings, actually said that's why TSR did it. Well, number one, that's an empty allegation. But here's the thing: even if he's right, so what? That's a legitimate. I mean, it's in commerce. So I don't think that. I think that Mr. LaNasa, if I were his counsel with the facts I have in front of me, I'd be trying to cut a deal with Wizards.
That's one thing. That's what I was just going to ask you, Ty. I didn't want you to speculate too hard, but let's say. Oh, great. That's why we have you on here, because you're used to making unsubstantiated allegations on Reiketa shows.
Everyone's entitled to my opinion, Mike.
So you're this. So if you're the lawyer in a case like this, where basically a big corporate entity is about to just absolutely curb stomp you, what is your plan of action?
Number one, I'm going to need $100,000 retainer. I'm serious. I mean, this easy. I mean, because we're fighting in federal court, and we're also fighting state court actions. We've got the possibility of triple damages.
Under
the South Carolina Deceptive Trade Practices Act. It's a complicated and messy dispute, but my real problem is, client, I believe we're going to lose. I mean, because at the end of the day, none of the allegations that Wizards made in their answer, I'd have their answer in front of my client and say, okay, what they denied this. How do we prove that they did this? How do we overcome that denial? And you hear crickets chirping. Wait a minute. So they have been selling this stuff on drive-through RPG since 2000?
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. Stop right there. It's my job to decide if it matters. This hypothetical would have to be that the client got themselves into this problem and then came to me, because there's no scenario where I would go along with a client, launching this kind of an action. This makes no business sense at all. I don't necessarily second guess the attempt. Fine, take a shot at it. If they really have lost situational awareness, maybe they don't care. But boy, the minute I started getting the cease and desist letters from their counsel, I'd be going, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Or you got to throw yourself on the mercy of them.
Well, or just hey, look, this is a dispute. If you'd write me a $5,000 check, we can resolve it. And I wouldn't die on this hill, because I'm just afraid unless TSR, Wizards is lying in their answer, and I don't think they are.
No,
because the things that I actually know about, a number of these, we being gamers, some of these things that Wizards is saying, we have independent knowledge of their accuracy, and they're all accurate. So if everything we know about is true, why would we assume that the stuff that we don't know about is a lie? I just. I mean, this is kind of a sophisticated. This is a variation of cyber squatting. It's that whole.
But Wizards of the Coast also wants the websites. When you say that, by the way, they also filed and said, "Hey, also, by the way, we will, in addition to the trademark issues, we want the websites that are infringing on our trademark."
Well, yeah, I mean, you're entitled to all that. I mean, that's the damages. Now, the thing is, they're going to go. I mean, this guy is almost certainly liable personally, just because if he's the main guy in this company, that fits the pattern. That fits the requirement for personal liability. We ran into this about 20 years ago. You guys, have y'all ever heard of the Business Software Alliance?
No.
Okay, this was an organization started by Microsoft and some other large software manufacturers in the late 90s. And it was an organization designed nominally to educate businesses about software piracy. Okay, now what it actually was shakedown mechanism to shake companies down. Because what they did is they would call that typically they'd offer bounties to people reporting software infringement. And here's how this happened. It wasn't like companies were saying, ooh, let's steal 50 copies of Microsoft Word. What would normally happen is I'm the boss of the company and I've got a computer. I get a new computer. Well, they don't throw my computer out, and this is 20 years ago. So what happens is my computer gets handed down to somebody. Right. Well, nobody thinks to delete all the software or relicense it or anything like that. They just give it to that other person. The other person goes to work. Well, if you're an organization with hundreds and hundreds of PCs, you can wind up in a situation where you've committed software copyright violations completely unintentionally. It just happened. So what they did is they would pay bounties to people for ratting their employer out.
Oh, shit.
And so this is even better. So they call the employer and they say, hey, we're the Business Software Alliance, and we'd like to come do a free survey of your IT setup to make sure that you're not inadvertently infringing. Business owner goes, sure, okay.
Shakedown.
Yeah. So they come in and they accumulate all the evidence. They leave, and about a month later, you get a demand letter from their lawyers saying, pay us thousands and thousands of dollars, pay us for every license you should have had, pay us our legal fees, pay us this, pay us that, pay the other thing. And the thing is, the businesses had virtually no choice but to pay. The first time that happened, the client let them in without calling me. And it was because of that personal liability that I'm telling you about, right? Is that, I learned that the hard was like, holy crap, you're unlike nearly every other debt your company could be liable for, you're on the hook for this. And so what finally broke their back, I think, was they got a lot of bad press because what happens is you fire your IT guy, and what does he do? And in one of my clients' cases, we actually suspect that the IT guy actually, created the problem and then ratted us out. So what happened was some big company somewhere they nailed them, and the company paid up, and then. Or no, the company said, no, we're not going to pay you up. And even more, we're taking Microsoft Office out of our company. Something like 1,000 licenses that they actually did have, they canceled.
Ooh.
They went to open office.
I was about to say, go for the freebie.
And, after that, I stopped hearing so much about the BSA. So the thing I'd be telling the client is, look, companies are they're very, very sensitive about intellectual property. You're poking them in one of their real sensitive softy bits. And at the end of the day, we really are kind of just squatting. We really are just trying to exploit their loss of situational awareness. And, I don't see the business case for doing this, but, maybe
I had a friend that used to, he would buy up domain names because it was a good way to make money in the late 90s, early aughts. And, what happens sometimes is somebody wants to buy it on sports.com and they'd say, hey, we'd like to buy this, blah, blah. But every once in a while, he'd get somebody to say, hey, we think you're cyber squatting. We're a big corporation. You're one person. We're going to sue the F out of you. But just to be nice, we'll write you a check for $2,000 for that, and you'd have to take it because he was right. I mean, the legal fees alone would just break you, even if you were totally in the right. I mean, and like you would say, well, I got sports.com just thinking it'd be a cool name. I didn't necessarily think I was cyber squatting, but I can't fight, ESPN or whatever. So yeah, I'll take your $2,000 or $5,000.
Well, what if you had gotten Coke.com and created a website devoted to the mineral Coke?
Ooh.
I always thought to myself, why did I think of that when the World Wide Web first came out?
Nice
You
one.
could probably
be able to hold on for a bit.
That's the thing about trademark. That's unlike copyright is all about the rights of the owner of the copyright. Trademark is about protecting the public. So you get into these weird places where you can actually use the same exact name as somebody else as long as the product categories are completely different.
Yeah. No, I saw that. I go back about 20 years when my car was constantly getting broken windows and getting broken into because we had a local druggie, and even though it was a cop, I didn't report it because what's the point for reporting criminal mischief? I know there's no point to reporting it, and I went to the same place.
You have the burden of knowledge,
right? And
you're like,
I did crime analysis. Believe me, I knew what was going to happen. I would wait more for the report to be taken than anything that would actually benefit me in my life. Right. And I would go. I actually got discounts at the local auto glass place, which was called D&D Glass.
There you go.
And I was like, oh my God. Listen, this is 20 years ago, so if I had like the current cell phone, I would have taken the picture to prove it. But it was D&D Glass, and I was there so often, it was just like, yeah, normally it's $105, but we'll do it for you for $50. Because
and auto glass places are not generally altruists.
No, because you're here every month and a half because the same jackass has broken your window.
We're going to give you a frequent flyer discount.
Yeah, I get the frequent flyer discount. It's like it didn't matter where I parked. You just knew. You came home at like 2:30 after working 6 to 2 in the morning. You park your car, and then your doorbell is being rung at 8 o'clock by one of your concerned neighbors to tell you that your window was broken. It's like, you know what? You could have let me sleep. I would have found out.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have made us.
Thanks for waking me up. And
yes. So, but I saw that. It's like D&D Glass. I wasn't wired in like I am now, but I saw that and went, oh, obviously they're not violating a trademark for D&D. And it had an ampersand even, but not the D&D ampersand. It had the end symbol. And I was like, okay. And apparently it was like David and I don't remember what the other guy's name was. They were two brothers, David and Donald, let's say. And that was D&D Glass. And I was like, oh, okay.
I got to ask one of my Bertrand, one of my IP lawyer buddies that actually does this as their practice area. I've always been, I don't know the answers. I've always been curious. What if my last name was McDonald and I opened a hamburger joint?
Hasn't this been argued, Ty? I think you're. Well, isn't there a McDonald's Burgers? It's a mom and pop, and they had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get. I swear that was.
I don't know. I don't know. Is there like some kind of The thing is, if you think about it, just because I have that name, if the actual purpose is to avoid confusing the marketplace, I shouldn't be able. But it just doesn't seem right that you shouldn't be able to use your own name.
Well, here now you have to forgive me because I have a few wines in me, so maybe I'm a little intox. But I when I was younger, I spent my summers in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania in the Northeast, and Carbondale was our local radio station was from Carbondale, and Carbondale had McDonald's. Now, no D at the end, and it was a family restaurant, and they would advertise. Their jingle was McDonald's in Carbondale. We're the other guy. McDonald's in Carbondale. Come give us a try. And I was like, as a teenager, I'm like, they're playing off that McDonald's thing. And then that doesn't, I mean, I don't know if they're still even exist.
Who knows? Was Carbondale the place that had the underground coal seam fire?
Yes, it is.
Like going to burn for the rest of the earth's going to plunge into the sun.
Yeah, I drive through Carbondale a couple times a year when I'm up in the Poconos and I go shopping, and there are whole sections of the city of Carbondale, the town of Carbondale, that are just empty streets with no buildings left on them because they've all been taken down. And not to hype my own sister, but my sister, Natalie Harnett, wrote a book. It's a fictional book it's historical fiction about the Carbondale coal fires, and it was an Audible bestseller at one point.
It's not a horror book, is it?
No, but it really dealt with
or like a true crime book.
It was kind of like a true crime. She asked me, for a little like PD investigative background on when she was working on it. And then it came down to, and you can't read the book. I'm like, but you wrote it.
See, I read a book a while back. It was a I think it did have a supernatural element to it, but it was set in and around that area, and they went through that part of town. It was pretty good. I'll see if what was her name again? Let's see if it was her.
Natalie Harnett. She wrote The Hollow Ground. It's
I honestly can't remember.
All right, I'm gonna try to get this train back on the tracks just a little bit. So
no, you're not allowed, Mike. You're not allowed.
I'm getting it back. So
all right.
So
Lord knows we need adult supervision.
Let's say this this goes up and LaNasa finds himself where he's probably gonna, I don't know, let's say he's gonna lose $300,000-$500,000. He doesn't want to lose that much. What does WotC want, do you think, out of him? And I mean, can they just take the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum? Can they take obviously they want the trademarks back, right? They want that. They want
the court. Well, they want the court to settle it and say, yeah, it's your trademark. They also want damages. They've pled, the economic damages that they say they've suffered from the confusion, the costs, and all that kind of stuff. One of the remedies they asked, which I thought was kind of interesting, is they asked for the court to order any institutions that had funds on deposit related to this case turned over to them. And doesn't he have a GoFundMe or something in there?
Yes, he does. It's still rolling. I think it's got about $57.
That may be
is done. It raised like a little bit over $6,000.
No, it's 57. I looked at it earlier today. It's 5,700.
All right, 57, but
it's close to 6,000. Yeah.
Yeah, but the funding period is over, and remember those monies were giving you.
You couldn't hardly get a pleading.
You're getting Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum memberships for those monies. Come on.
Yeah, I saw that too. They quoted that in there. That raises an interesting point of taxation. That doesn't sound like the money. It doesn't sound like the sums of money are enough to matter. But if you give something of value in exchange for that donation, then the fair market value of whatever you gave, you're deemed to have received that as income. Otherwise the GoFundMe is a gift. So there's some weird tax implications on that too.
It's not a GoFundMe. It was an Indiegogo. So here's the thing: in Indiegogo, you are technically supporting for a product. It's not like a gift where I'm like, I'm giving you money so you can just protest the Canadian government, and then we'll steal your go money.
So it's not explicitly for his legal defense.
No, it was. It was. You were getting actual memberships to the museum, and any leftover funds were initially going to go to the
Gary Gygax Memorial, but then he dropped that. And because
that's
another black hole, because
we want nothing to do with you. You never talk to us. We don't want your money. And besides which, really, there's no money left over.
No, that's not going to happen.
I just don't see the business, the value proposition here. I don't. You got to find. He lives in South Carolina, I think, somewhere.
He lives in North Carolina, but he owns the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Which is basically a house. It's just a house with a bunch of D&D stuff in it. Now it's the Gygax's old house. They've turned into a museum, it's just got D&D stuff in there. They run games in there. They charge you $100 to game with Ernie Gygax if anybody wants to pay that much.
I guess in the day and age of COVID, it was probably easier to do a lawsuit all the way across the country because everybody was doing Zoom. But that's going away, and now all of a sudden you got counsel that I don't know where his counsel is located. I guess it's here on the pleadings.
I think it's Washington. I think that his new counsel, when he had to refile, after North Carolina told him, "Hey, you're in the wrong venue." Yeah. I know you went through the effort of incorporating in North Carolina the month before November, and we appreciate that fact. But you're in the wrong venue. You got to go to
They didn't do their venue research very well. They had to.
Well,
it is proper in Washington.
I think they knew exactly what they were doing. Again, I'm gonna spitball, folks, and I'm not a lawyer, but my suspicion is the idea was let's file in North Carolina because my lawyer is in North Carolina, and he can therefore litigate this. and maybe we'll get lucky, and the federal court in North Carolina won't realize it's the wrong venue, and we'll get lucky. And then it was like, oh shit, they realize it's the wrong venue.
Yeah. You know, I've been in a situation where we knowingly removed a jurisdiction to East Texas, to the Eastern District of Texas, because we needed to buy time. It was a strategic move, but no, they didn't do that correctly. Washington is the proper venue because that's where Wizards is, and they're the defendant, and so
they needed the lawsuit to be filed, or the legal action to be filed, to be able to say we're fighting the big bad gremlin. We're fighting Wizards of the Coast, and look, we filed a legal action. See, they needed to file to have the Indiegogo to raise money for the filing that was in the wrong jurisdiction.
You know, and the thing is, I can hear people say, well, how could this lawyer have filed this on their behalf? This lawyer may not be a gamer. He may not know that the factual allegations in here are quite likely false. People lie to their lawyers all the time.
Well,
I mean, there's there are a lot of attorneys out there. They see themselves as professionals. You pay my fee, I'll do you a good job. In the federal system, we're not supposed to file pleadings unless we have a good faith belief that they're merited. But we don't have an independent duty to investigate the factual allegations of our clients either. So I don't think I don't think it's fair to go after LaNasa's attorney. He's probably doing as good a job as he can do. I just don't think that the facts go in their favor. The facts that we know about don't. We know they've been selling TSR products for decades.
Right.
I mean, and that seems to me to be pretty fatal to the whole argument that they abandoned it, that they abandoned these trademarks. And you ask what Wizards wants. If I'm Wizards, Wizards probably doesn't want to engage in sport litigation. They probably don't want to just beat somebody into the ground. What they want is just they want the trademarks clearly in their name. I think that can be done by taking him all the way and beating him in the courthouse. It can also be done by him acquiescing and agreeing that he has no claim and signing and saying, yes, we agree that we're asking the court to enter an agreed judgment that in fact those are your trademarks, and it's over.
Well, the problem there is, and Eric and I have talked about this for a few months, is that this guy's not like a normal dude. And I think a lot of it, and we've talked about this, we just talked about this before you were on. He's a tattoo artist, and he's real big into biker gangs and stuff. And they just have a whole philosophy of not backing down. That's weakness. Yeah. They don't like to back down. And everything he's done so far, he's never acquiesced or backed down to anything. Even as the crazier it got, he just stuck with it. And it looks like it's an absolute train wreck waiting to happen, because I just can't see this guy ever backing off until he's lost every cent. And then,
and the thing is, Mike, he might be what we call judgment proof. When I took a class in law school, debtor creditor law in law school, and the first day the professor comes in and she writes in gigantic, 2-foot high letters, and she said the first question on the final exam is going to be, what's the most important thing to know about this course? And here's the answer. And she writes in big old letters, a judgment is not money.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, I don't think South Carolina is what we'd call a debtor-friendly state. Most of those old Deep South states are actually pretty harsh on debtors. If you're going to be a debtor, you need to live someplace like Florida or Texas. Texas was settled by people fleeing their creditors, so we have
a long and proud history.
Yeah. Well, it's a Davy Crockett thing. Y'all go to hell, I'm going to Texas. No, Texas and Florida in particular have got very, very broad protections for debtors. There's a huge variety of assets that creditors can't reach. I don't believe South Carolina falls in that category. But if the guy doesn't have anything, you get into that thing. I mean,
well, he owns a couple of tattoo parlors and he has a little money, but you don't know how he has that set up, right?
And the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, he has some physical properties.
Well, maybe that's not his name.
Do we know that do they own the property, or are they just renting it from the actual owner?
You know what? The Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, I believe, is owned. I don't know about the Curiosities Museum, and I would assume that I'm going to assume it's probably rentals for the locations that are the tattoo parlors. It's one of those things. I've been told on good authority that Justin has little concern about the monies that he spends on this.
Buddy, if you're watching this show, you've just begun. I mean, this is multi-$100,000 worth of legal fees for your lawyer to do. Because I mean, the problem is that his lawyer, Justin's lawyer, has got to respond to everything that Wizards lawyers do. I mean,
right.
If you don't respond, you lose. And so it's literally you're in a World War I kind of situation against someone that's got far more ammunition and far more guns than you do. And they have the ability, I think, to grind him down. Now, that said, I think probably if his lawyer were to call him and say, hey, look, we'll, mea culpa, Wizards probably at this stage wouldn't press too hard on getting their legal fees. They just say, get it over with, sign off on everything and agree and stipulate and yada, 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 and it's ours. But, these things think about this, these things have a way of, once they start going, it's a lot easier to start a lawsuit than it is to end one.
Oh, God, yeah.
What happens is, people start spending money, egos get involved, personalities get involved. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is a public fight, so any back down by either side is going to be publicly visible. And you get into a situation. But I just don't think, had I been hired to evaluate this case from the beginning, I just would have said, guys, I don't, the population of what could go bad for us is like this big. And the population of what could go good for us is this big.
I mean, honestly, what is the upside? Unless, again, not an attorney, I don't play one on TV, but unless you actually, from the TSR, Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, LaNasa side, unless you win, flat out win, and you get damages and attorney fees, and the odds are against you, based upon from what, as a yokel, I can look at and my minor experience with civil and criminal courts. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, as my cardiologist put it to me when I had my recent PET scan, and he's like, I think we have one stent that needs to get followed up on. He goes, it may be nothing.
It may be nothing.
He goes, it may be something that could be an issue in a year and a half, 2 years. He goes, 50-50 chance. He goes, I never gamble at 50-50.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
We know.
Right. Yeah.
We know you can roll a 1, 2, or 3 on a 6-sider.
And listen, the three of us are all gamers, right? We all know, and we've probably all done this. It's like your DM tells you, just don't roll a 1 on that D20. Don't roll a 1.
You're looking at the dice.
And what the fuck happened, right?
You're going to roll a 1, aren't you? You son of a bitch. I just know you are.
You Tim Short your pants, because Tim Short's always rolls 1s, but only when he's a player. When he's a DM, he's a fucking killer. But you're going to roll that 1, and you're like, but my chance is only 5%, but you still fucking rolled that 1. When you tell me my chance of success is 50-50, that means my chance of failure is 50-50. I'm not going to throw numbers out on what this looks like, but this isn't even, what? Don't roll a 1 situation, okay? It really doesn't, especially when the lawyers are stacked against you. When your opponent has unlimited funds and you're looking at,
if all the facts were on LaNasa's side, I wouldn't be so much worried about Wizards' legal firepower, because if the facts and the law really are on your side, there is a limit normally as to how much they can leverage their resources. The problem here is the facts that I am aware of are not on his side.
Right.
And even those facts seem to be pretty determinative. I was asking myself the question when you were talking, okay, what if hypothetically someone like him had come to me and said, this is what I want to do. What do you think the chances are of Wizards objecting? I would say, well, look, I mean, they've lost situational. They have lost some degree of situational awareness. I mean, that they didn't move quickly like they should have, things like that. I said, but come on, this is the core essence of what they bought when they bought TSR. I mean, this is not, this isn't Boot Hill.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Or Gangbusters even. I mean, this is Dungeons and Dragons and all the stuff around it. I just don't think the minute they become aware of what you're doing, they're gonna strike back. I think they have to. And you're gonna have some executives there who kind of did let this go too far. Well, they're not gonna just go, well, we better just let him have it. Their reaction typically is to unleash the lawyers and ask the lawyers to cover up the fact that they might have not been quite as attentive. So I just think the odds were, this is not hindsight, 2020 hindsight. I think the odds were, it was very predictable that this is where this ends up. Easily 50-50. I'd say more like 70-30 or even 80-20.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I believe it's last June, Wizards sent the not quite the cease and desist letter.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
knock that shit off.
Yeah, knock the shit off. Hey, we think you're violating our rights. We'd like you not to violate our rights, and here's how you cannot violate our rights. And pretty much just before that 6-month time period was over, TSR said, well, we want a summary judgment on who actually owns these trademarks. And it's like,
yeah.
Well,
there was obviously a misreading. The interpretation of Wizards' action, I think, was that they were dealing from a position of weakness, which is the exact opposite. They were dealing from such a position of strength that they could afford to be gracious.
Right.
And kudos to them, by the way, for trying to do it in a classy way. I mean, I always applaud companies that, one of the greatest cease and desist letters ever written was written by the counsel for Jack Daniel's whiskey. Some guy had written a book. He was just a real Jack Daniel's nerd, wrote a hit book on the history of Jack Daniel's or something, and used their logo on the cover of his book. And the letter was respectful. We appreciate the fact that you're so interested in Jack Daniel's. We really enjoyed your book, but you can't use our trademark. We have to defend it. If we don't, we lose it.
Right.
And I hope you understand. We would, when you sell out, please don't use it again. If you have stock in and you would prefer, we'll just buy the stock from you, and we'd be happy to let our graphic artists help you come up with a cover that would be. I mean, just.
That's very nice.
We've got a file in my office of what I consider to be really, really excellent examples of legal work, and that letter is in that file as just a classic example. Wizards sees what I saw of this Wizards letter was pretty classy. Just hey, knock it off. Well, apparently the plaintiff in this case thought that they were, that this was weakness, and it's not.
No.
It's just not realistic to expect a large corporation to just give up their intellectual property like this. Because see, the thing is, you don't actually know what that intellectual property is worth. I mean, if you're a company or you're a manager of a company, what happens if somebody decides to make a movie about Dungeons and Dragons and wants to use that logo on their posters?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, you literally don't know what it's worth. So therefore, you're just not going to give it up just because. And I'm mystified as to what he thought he was going to accomplish. But I think you're probably right. People make emotional decisions all the time.
Yeah.
Years ago, a small convention in Texas may or may not have copied a tournament module that was no longer being printed. It had never been reprinted. And they may or may not have made 50 or so copies and gave them away for a donation, not sale at the convention. And this may or may not have come to the attention of WotC, who at that point may or may not have called said owner of convention and said, just don't do this again. Because which actually really did happen. So, but no, that's what, and they were actually very good about it because Doug had asked permission, and he, of course, committed a fatal flaw, assuming that not getting back to him was permission.
Yeah.
They never got back to him. So he's like, oh, well, they didn't say anything's
We
wrong.
didn't say no.
And so he put out this item, and then about a week later, then they suddenly got in touch with him. But their response, I thought, was really good. It was just that, just when you get whatever you have left of the stock, don't sell it. Because he made a point that we weren't selling it. We were not going to sell it. We're basically giving it away. But if they wanted to give us a donation, it's fine. But they said, please don't do this again, because this is our property and blah, blah, blah. And I think the fact that we were a small convention, I want to say Doug only made 50 copies. It wasn't a lot. So I thought that was pretty good. This is not like, and I don't know if you're aware, Ty, of the TSR of the early 90s, late 80s. When they were just absolutely just horrific. I mean, if you mentioned the word elf on your webpage, you got a C&D
from.
Well,
you remember when they trademarked Nazi on the Indiana?
Yeah. I mean, they were just over the top. All your webpage had to do was mention Dungeons and Dragons, and they would send you a C&D, and it was just awful. And no, they were very respectful, and well, just don't do it again. And I know of another case where the diecast game guys. Oh wait, I think I have. Well, I don't want to dig it out of the box.
We have an infringing product now.
The diecast game guys put out a product called Insidious that said for advanced Dungeons and Dragons right on the top, and it used the same trade dress as a D&D module. And they were sent a C&D.
I donated that to the con. I gave you a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, no, you don't understand. Doug got about a dozen of them because
he did. Okay,
because they were asked to.
I think mine was signed.
They were asked to destroy or get rid of them, and so I think Doug on the side. I had them right here. That was just. Oh, here we go.
No, you
can't, folks. You can't do this. You're not allowed to do that. That is highly illegal. But
seems like there'd be a great opportunity for market confusion.
Yeah, TSR 1, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So if you have later copies of it, it no longer has that. But they got a C&D letter, and it pretty much just said, just get rid of don't sell the stock anymore. That's why Doug got a lot of copies, because but by this date, don't sell anymore. Well, 2 days before, they said, hey, do you want a dozen copies? We'll sell them to you for whatever. But once again, they could have been a lot meaner than they were. And they just were like, you can't really do this. Here's the reasons why you can't do it. As you see, it creates market confusion there. But and I think they kind of knew the Burtwire brothers. I think they kind of knew it was a wink, wink. Yeah, we kind of know this is not really legal, but maybe they won't notice us. We're small enough, but they did. But
the thing is, they have to defend their trademarks. I mean, they have to. They can't just let people use their trademarks, because that's how you lose a trademark. It becomes a generic.
Oh,
mark.
Sure, yeah.
And so there's that. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm slightly to the right of Attila Hun. Okay, so I yield.
No surprises.
I yield to no one in my far right wing things, and I know that Wizards is a woke company and all that. But here's the thing: I do remember I started playing D&D in 1979. I do remember how absolutely obnoxious and heavy-handed TSR was.
Oh, yeah.
Basically until Wizards bought them.
Yep.
And when Wizards bought them, it was like a breath. I mean, like immediately, all of a sudden, TSR was basically at war with its customer base.
Yeah.
Especially when the internet came along, because they absolutely didn't have any clue on how to deal with that. And then Wizards comes along, buys TSR, and it's like, hey, we're on your side. I mean, the open gaming license, that was a Wizards of the Coast thing.
It was not
on Earth TSR of the pre-Wizards days would have ever.
I talked to a lot of creators. As a matter of fact, I just talked to James Lauder at GameholeCon, who's an author, and he worked for TSR quite a few years. And we were just talking about, because he'd written a lot of novels for TSR. I said, just out of curiosity, and I'd never talked to James Lauder, nice guy. And I just say, hey, just out of curiosity, I know you wrote some novels that became bestsellers. Did you actually make any money off that? Oh yeah, I made money. They paid whatever. But the problem was, the last few years, when they were in financial trouble, his check started getting later and later and later, and then pretty soon it's like 6 months, 8 months. So he said he wrote a real angry letter to TSR about it. Well, when they switched over, he said he got a call one day from Peter Atkinson when was and he said, "Look, I just saw your letter here. What do we owe you? And I will just write you a check for it tomorrow." And it was, and for everybody I've talked to, creators at that time, it was absolutely night and day how things went from when they went from TSR to WotC. And apparently Atkinson was really big on making sure that everybody that worked there was happy, and that, look, if you were owed any money or you think that you were done wrong by past management, I will make it up to you. What do I need to do? And he said he had a lot of respect for it because he just said,
he could have very easily have just bought the assets of TSR and not the liabilities, like TSR did the SPI. If you remember.
I remember that. Yes,
they killed.
They could very easily legally have gotten out of all the debt that was owed. So it was very classy. So Wizards has always gotten a little bit of. They get a benefit of the doubt from me. I overlooked their wokeness because basically they were so classy, and it was such an amazing. We take for granted that now, but my God, TSR was threatening websites.
That's for John. That's for John Miller, who said I have everything in this room. I just have to be looking at these today.
Oh my God,
you're right, John.
That's the original strategic.
Yeah, it's a complete set of strategic reviews. So yes, John, you're right. I have everything in the room. I just happened to have those down there today, so I thought I'd give everybody a thrill there. But
that's
well, John Bush said, what is Lauder doing now? He's still working the industry. He just does different things. He's an editor. He still edits and stuff. So
yeah, I think Wizards. I mean, I'm sure somebody somewhere is mad at them about something, but I think by and large, you just look at the conduct in this. Imagine if LaNasa had tried this under Lorraine Williams.
Oh dear God!
My God!
Oh my God!
She just sent Hitman after him. Yeah, he would.
Oh yeah. Or even, I mean, rest his soul. Gary Gygax was pretty damn hard.
Yeah,
hard-nosed and heavy.
Well, yeah. If you read the book, the Game Wizards, they went after a few people pretty hard too.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of those things. It's tempting to go, well, they shouldn't have done that. Yeah, but they created this, and to see other people milking it and making money off of their work, that's a little galling. I can understand it to a point. My disagreement with it was more on the rounds of I didn't feel like it was a very smart business strategy. Somehow suing your customers just didn't ever strike me as a way to.
Well, it didn't work. Remember when all the music services were suing little old ladies, and that was it worked out so terrible for them that they eventually just dropped it because every time you turn the news on, Sony was suing 98-year-old grandmother whose granddaughter had downloaded illegally some songs, and they wanted $18,000 from her. It was the worst publicity you could ever possibly get.
I'm firmly convinced that's what led ultimately to the iTunes thing of one song for $1 and then finally just streaming. That there's no reservoir of goodwill whatsoever. In the customer.
At one point there, I think I can't remember what music company was really doing this, but they were voted most hated company in the United States, and we have a lot of hated companies in the United States. So to be voted that was pretty bad. But that was not a good legal strategy.
If I were counsel and the client would do what I would recommend, I'd already been on the phone with their lawyers saying, "Hey, can't we all just get along?" Because the thing about this is it's now effectively in my opinion Wizards is calling the shots here. They can literally turn the knob to spend whatever amount of money, and if the guy's judgment proof, then great, he can fight and all that. But I mean, at some point, his lawyer's got to eat.
Oh yeah. Well, from what we understand, what we've heard and our inside sources, he's not very good about paying people, is he, Eric, for their work? He manages to sweet talk a lot of stuff out of people without actually paying for it. So I can't imagine a lawyer doing that, because I know you guys.
You'd be surprised. We can be soft. We can be soft marks just like anybody. In my office, the staff won't let me talk to certain people because I'm.
Well, Revenge Chad on Twitter said that Michael H. was not paid for the 6.5 months that he served at TSR to being their PR
guy,
/ creative executive. I forget the titles. Never got paid because and Ernie, executive vice president, again, from my understanding. Verbal contract only, never actually gotten an actual printed, written, signed contract. Justin apparently, God bless, is good at getting people to believe the hype of future
Yeah, I
promises.
just, and again, I don't know the man from Adam, don't know hardly anything about him, but if someone is that talented, man, get a job selling life insurance. You make a hell of a lot more money.
Pretty much.
I'm serious. There are sales jobs out there by the bazillions, and you can make a fortune in sales if you're good at it. Doesn't and when I see people that are that charm, it's like, get a real job. You'll make a lot more money. You won't be taking advantage of people, and you won't be in crazy, chaotic lawsuits against huge companies when you're just obviously trying to steal, take their IP.
I mean, Ty, not for nothing, but I have it on good authority that once the Witches of the Coast lawsuit is complete, I'm going to be served with slander and stalking. Oh no!
Well, truth is an absolute defense.
Yeah, it's right. You can tell how concerned I am, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Going to threaten an NYPD cop. With harsh language.
I mean, listen, okay. I've been sued for $2 million as an NYPD cop. I've been through the process, and I've had numerous individuals in the gaming community threaten me with legal action because of, I guess you could say, the work that I do, checking into people that may potentially abuse the community or take advantage of the community or such. And I haven't even got a nastygram from a lawyer yet. Let alone serves, because as somebody very well known in the community said to me at one point, they said that their wife was concerned because I step into stuff, and their response to their wife, and they told me, was, Tenkar knows exactly where that line is, and he walks up to it, and he'll peek over it, but he won't cross it. So I know where the line is.
I just, again, this whole thing just strikes me as a bunch of, if I were Wizards of the Coast counsel, in-house counsel, I'd just be going, why are we doing this? Why are we having to do this? Well, you're having to do this because you've drawn, you've drawn the short stick, and you got this guy that thinks somehow he's going to succeed. I certainly wouldn't bet the rent against Wizards in this deal. As I said, these pleadings are well drafted. They hit all the points. They appear to me to be something that somebody who's never cracked a D&D book open can understand.
Yeah, I gotta say, their countersuit, complete with visuals. I was like, oh, they did a pretty good job with this.
Yeah.
Not even a reference to the tavern, which is Ty knows. The tavern probably is a decent source for these legal proceedings. I do a decent job with that. So
it would be foolish of their lawyers not to read the commentary out there. I mean, I certainly would if I were representing Wizards. I'd be seeing what commentators have, and lawyers don't have any monopoly on good ideas or salient observations. I'm curious. It'd be real interesting to know whether Wizards attorneys are actually gamers. That would be.
You would think maybe because they're Wizards attorneys are probably Hasbro attorneys, they would have to know something about it. You would think, but
I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how this is. What firm is this? I don't know a lot of.
Yeah, I don't know if they're Hasbro attorneys per se that are handling this suit.
Davis, Wright, and Tremaine. I don't recognize the name, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. I'm going to Google them just real quick and see if they're a national or. They've got over 500 lawyers.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
listen, you know what? There is that whole idea that once you reach a certain size, the monies, the numbers game changes, right? Once you've hit 500 lawyers, the amount that you can bring forward and the amount of money that you can invest in a suit changes.
Effectively unlimited. I mean,
Yeah.
they can effectively throw. I don't know that there's that much more to throw into this, though. It looks like, I mean, these factual allegations are basically provable. They've done a pretty fair job in their pleadings of giving the detail, but I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to prove their factual allegations. I mean, how do you overcome the statement, we've been selling product for since forever that uses these logos? I mean, either TSR did or they didn't, and it's easy to prove or it's not. And I just don't think. I mean, like I said, I know I've bought TSR product online PDF form for years and years.
Yeah.
In fact, as I recall, didn't they had the white boxes out in PDF back in the early aughts.
So
yes, I remember getting into arguments about that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They had initially, and I'll say this the nicest way I can say it, pretty shitty scans of most of what they had initially up there. Yeah. And when I say pretty shitty scans, folks, I mean really shitty scans.
God's sake, stop using JPEG when you scan written pages. Please, for God's sakes, just stop.
So they had the shitty scans, and then the shitty scans became all of a sudden nothing. You get nothing from Witches of the Coast for the classic TSR material. They pulled everything down in their we have to fight piracy mode. The problem was you were fighting piracy at that time when my 14-year-old son could probably go on at the time and pirate music and books if he wanted. He didn't care.
Hello, Pirate Bay. Yeah, Pirate Bay, and all those spots.
So I mean, so you took it down and you left people with the only option, which was to pirate. And then a few years later, they changed their mind, and that's when they were asking for donations. And can you donate your originals from classic TSR material so we can cut it up and do proper scans?
So they did, yeah. I guess when they bought TSR, they probably just got the shell.
Yeah,
didn't get any assets or anything. Yeah, I mean. Well, that's the single biggest problem with scanned game products is the use of JPEG, because JPEG is not a text scanning format. No. Compressed TIFF, people. Compressed TIFF.
So I want to hold on. I want to tell you a glance back in the old days. I got into a long, violent, ugly argument with the guy on a forum back when the white box was available as a scan. My opponent's argument was the fact that now white boxes are worthless because you can get a scan of it. And I was like, that's not how it works.
No.
And boy, we had a long argument. And I would just like to say that I won the argument. So go fuck yourself. Whoever you were, go fuck yourself. I can't remember who it was, but it went on forever and ever. And I was like, no, the same way that a reprint of Spider-Man 1 does not devalue original Spider-Man 1, no. Scans of the white box are not going to
slight decrease in the value, because they're probably, if something is absolutely not available, I suppose. Right. But remember too, you're in that context. What about piracy? Right. I mean, in this day and age, if you can't find a PDF of whatever it is you want, you're just not trying.
Mark Clover has a good. He's like, I was one of the handful of people who helped James Matthew put the old stuff up on RPG Now. Jim Butler, if I recall, was in charge of the first game for Woods of the Coast, but was understaffed and told to put it out quickly.
Makes sense. Well, those scans
and the scanners defaulted to JPEG. Yeah. I mean, it's not like somebody said, we'll scan it in JPEG and make it crappy. That's the default scanning format to this day. But JPEG just happens to be an especially bad choice for printed material, because it gives you all that ghosting. and crap. By the way, you can fix that in Photoshop, but
which by the way, their scans now aren't that much better. I've got some of the print on demand stuff just to see what it looked like. So I sent off for about a dozen print on demand modules. Some look okay. Some are not very good. I mean, they have shadows, like you said, they're shadowed. They have, you could tell in the original scan there must have been a crease or something. So they could be a lot better than they are even now. But if you just want something to be able to read and play with, it looks like the original module, they're great. But yeah, they're not going to fool anybody into thinking that they're.
Oh God, no! Yeah, that's not originals. No.
I just like reading the old stuff. I read a lot more than I ever play these days, and that's probably not going to change. You know, I don't. There's you know, the talk about your first world problems. You know, we're complaining about.
Oh no!
I don't like the quality of the scan for a 30-year-old game. You know.
Oh yeah, man, it sucks, man. But I'm glad I don't have to pay the $500 I had to pay for original copy. Then that was with typeset so small I can't read it. Oh,
well, you know, outside of just beating certain people out of bidding wars on players' handbooks, I'm not a collector. I'm an accumulator. Oh, well, you've been to my game room, Mike. Which, by the way, yes. It's still trashed out from you and Zach.
What are you gonna wait for us to come back and put it back on the shelf? Because that's not going to happen, Ty. That's not happening. So you might want to put it back. You might want to put it back on the shelf.
Are you ever going to clean this room back up? And I'm like, well, you know,
I would wait for those son of a bitches to come back. When they get back, I'm going to make them put it all back on the shelf.
Eric, it was like this, you know, like Attila and his Huns just came and sacked my game room.
We left it all on the table. We didn't leave it on the ground or anything.
I blame myself.
In the bathroom.
You should have known better.
It's all on the table. Better. It's just yeah. We probably weren't the best guests when it comes to
it was
picking stuff up.
Its place. It was neat, which for me is an amazing accomplishment. Next day, it looked like hurricane. You know, like a hurricane had gone through, and I was like, okay. Well,
it was bad. Yeah, not going to deny that, but I will default to my favorite line in Animal House, and I give this to my wife all the time, and she loves it. And it's like, you fucked up. You trusted us. That's what I throw that at my wife all the time. You fucked up. You trusted me. You know.
Right, who was the worst offender, Ty? Was it Mike or Zach? I have my own idea.
It was hard to tell.
It was equally terrible.
I mean, for one thing, there was bourbon involved, so you know.
Yeah.
Oh well, if that's the case, then I got to say it's Mike.
Yeah, because Zach doesn't drink. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I really didn't notice it, and I didn't really, you know, bear down enough that I could actually assess, you know, blame on a relative basis.
Yeah. I think it was cool. I think it was pretty equal. It was pretty equal. I think the blame.
But, you know, I've dodged the collection bugs so far. We'll see how long that lasts.
It won't.
No, it probably won't. I'm already starting to drift into it.
He's got some good pieces in his collection. Now, for those who don't know, Ty published a set of war game rules, Fistful of Toes. Was awesome. We messed around with that at Long Con, but so his collection veers a little more war gamey than most of our collections would in terms of just pure RPG stuff. But he's still got some good RPG items in there too. It's not all war games, and the war game stuff he does have, he's got some pretty interesting war game collectibles in there too.
Well, you know, that was the original hobby. That the great in the late 70s, role playing came out of wargaming. The comic book and fan, you know, that side of it didn't really become a thing till the early to mid 80s. I think the first comic book / game store in Dallas was probably 83, 84, something like that. Before that, you know, wargamers and role playing gamers were the same people for the most part. And
there was a store in Dallas called, I think it was called Emperor's Choice, Emperor something, and it was in boy, this is a way back. It was a place called European Crossroads in Dallas, and you could go in there, and there was they would have these miniature war games. They had miniatures all over the place, and I remember going over there right when RPGs were kind of getting started, and this little ghetto spot in the back, they had a thing set up, and they had, you know, your S1, your G1, they had your, you know, RPG games, and if you went and bought one, they sniffed at you like,
oh yeah, no,
you're one of those people.
There was definitely a sneering of the
that's a game without any real rules to it. You just kind of do
whatever
you want.
Fantasy rules, you know. And it's like, dude, we're all playing with toy soldiers. How?
Yeah, the guy playing with the toy soldier was making fun of you because you were
buying. You're playing with army men. I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't hug that too tightly.
But that's back then, and I talk about this all the time. There was that wargamer versus RPGer for a few short years, and because RPGs stole a lot of people from the hobby, the wargame hobby. I was really into war games until I found RPGs. At that point, Squad Leader went on the shelf, and Middle Earth went on the shelf, and I was all into RPGs, and that happened to a lot of my friends too. And so,
you could play it. You could play it with more people. You know, you play a role playing game. You can play with. God, I think back to my college days, and I'm like, how in the hell did I run games as huge as I did?
Oh yeah.
Now I'd have a nervous breakdown if I had more than 5 players. I literally remember running like 12 to 15 people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just, of course, my grade point average reflected that degree of hobby, but a little awkward because I'm on a board of advisors for the university that I attended and graduated from. And so it's like, you guys don't actually look up the old GPAs, do you? Because I would prefer that you not.
As one of my friends who became a lawyer told me, his specialty was traffic tickets, and he made a lot of money doing traffic tickets. Is that somebody's got to graduate last in the class, but you know what? Your degree means exactly as much as the guy who graduated first in the class. So
if I had known I was going to go to law school, I might very well have, attended class. Maybe. But I went to college because my parents told me I was going to go to college from the time I was 5 years old. I mean, I was the first person in my family to have to go to college and get a diploma. And that generation was like, you're going to college. You're going to college. That's where you're going to go. And so I showed up at college and was like, okay, I'm here. I don't know what I want to do. I had, 15 different majors, and finally, settled on history just to get a degree in something. And then, but no, as I told the dean of the business school, I said, well, I'm a distinguished alum, just not distinguished in any ways that the university recognizes.
Not in the right ways.
Distinguished by
I'm sure I set a record for most consecutive semesters on probation without getting kicked out, because I talked my way out of getting booted out a couple times. There were dungeons to run. Okay,
there are priorities. Prioritize. When I got promoted to sergeant, the list of promotions, NYPD is big, so there were 1,881 names on the promotion list, and I was 1840.
Wow.
So needless to say, I waited a while for it to happen, and my old boss was always like, you know what, dude, just listen, put in for the detective squad. Maybe you'll make detective. I don't think you're going to make sergeant. These lists only last 2 years usually. You're probably going to die on it. It lasted 2 years and 2 months. They promoted. I was the last class off my list, and the joke was that the 35 people in my sergeant's class were either the very end of the list or people that were at the very beginning of the list that were passed over because they were fuck ups and had to prove themselves to get off the fuck up list to get promoted. So it's like, wow, this is a really weird group of people to be around. Either you did just barely enough to pass this exam, or you did really well and they weren't really sure about you.
I have the dubious distinction of hiring a lot of honors graduates from law school. I went to law school a little bit later in life, and I had a child we had our first daughter in the middle of law school.
Wow.
So even then, excelling in GPA wasn't really my focus. I just,
right.
me, I was going to a trade school and I needed to learn a trade, and that's what I did, and all that. I've never found that high grades are particularly indicative of anything except a willingness to work really hard.
Right.
Most people who excel academically do work their butts off.
Right.
But the fact is that's not the only way that you can show that you work your butt off. I mean, it's just an indicator. And some people just figure it out better than others. But yeah, anyway, like I said, though, I'm sitting in these on this board of advisors, and I'm going, yeah, I bet you graduated honors from the school. Listen, like I said, I had to run dungeons for 15 people. Okay,
I understand that.
Yeah, you were managing. That was a management problem. That was you were managing.
I wanted to go out with, and I had to have it was a question of priorities.
That's a leadership position.
You mentioned your daughters. I want to throw this in real quick. For those who want to know that talent skipped the generation with Ty and went straight to his daughters. They did the video for the newest Frog game Kickstarter for Splinters of Faith, and they did an excellent job. And so check out, go to YouTube, check out Splinters of Faith. I think it's Brianna's the voice, but talent there, and it's absolutely excellent. And someday, Ty, we're going to find out who their father is. Because they're beautiful and smart. So
wait a second, you're saying that can't be Ty?
Well, let's just say most of the good stuff they got from their mother. Leave it at that.
All right, see.
Actually, so what I'll do is I'll actually put up a link in the chat here.
If you can't put it directly, drop it in a private chat.
Yeah, the Splinters of Faith Kickstarter. It's a really great Kickstarter because this is me just absolutely selling out right now with my being a stockholder for our games. But no, Splinters of Faith was a great campaign that came out over a decade ago. It was I think 12 linked adventures. No, I think it was 10 linked adventures. Jeff, I think they've done some more adventures, and it's in one book now, and it's really, really great. It was something that's been overlooked for years. It's really, really a great campaign, and the Beard Daughters did just an absolutely excellent job on the video. So, please check it out and give it a look.
I, of course, am the nauseatingly proud and doting father, so.
And what's cool about, I'll tell you what I mean, I like a lot of things about your daughters because they're just absolutely wonderful people, but they're not fake nerd chicks. And that's what so that's a big thing in our hobby now is people get way bent out of shape about what they call fake nerd chicks. And basically that's, you like Olivia Munn. Olivia Munn might be a fake nerd chick because I don't know. Maybe she's not because she seems like she really knows video games, at least when she was doing the Guy show or whatever. But there's a lot of females now that kind of get into this, I'm going to review a game. And then when they start talking, you realize they don't really know what they're talking about. And they may be up there because their cleavage is really gigantic. And maybe it's not because they really like games. And somehow
that makes men pay, and who could ever have seen that coming?
But your daughters are definitely not fake nerd girls. They are they're actually real nerd girls. So that's
actually
awesome.
that was always the funny thing is I didn't want to be one of those parents that inflicted their hobbies on their children. So we didn't do a lot of role playing when they were kids. I wasn't trying to shield them from it or anything, but
right.
That was my hobby, and I didn't really want to just drag them along. And then when they got to be teenagers, when Brianna got to be a teenager, and she's like, yeah, we really like this. And I was like, oh, well, let me run something for you. So that was great.
Your dad knows how to do this. I promise you. Yeah.
It was pretty cool because she had played with some friends. And like a lot of beginning campaigns, it went kind of, in fact, we let them, they met at our house for a while, and I'm sitting in my easy chair and the DM is, being a novice DM, and she's trying to, but it's just not going well. And I'm over there just twitching going, finally at one point I looked over at Brianna and she looks at me and goes, because I was like, so finally I said, okay, honey, let me show you how this is done. And So yeah, they actually came to the hobby honestly, in the sense that it wasn't through any pressure from me or anything. In fact, they,
Oh,
we've kind of lamented the fact we sort of we did other things together. I mean, I was a very like I said, very doting father.
Well, I posted a link there. There's a link to the both to the Kickstarter and to the video. So watch the video.
Why don't I see the link, Michael?
I don't know. I put it up there.
I did not see the link, Michael. I'm
Michael,
sure.
put it in a private chat, and I'll make sure. It might.
So Eric, how long? I mean, when did you guys start playing? I'm just curious.
I started playing. I believe 1980.
Okay.
And I say 1980 because my friend Kenny had the Dungeon Master's Guide. He didn't have the Player's Handbook, so he ran me through a solo adventure. I named my fighter Cyrus after Cyrus Vance because somehow that name was important back in 1980.
I seem to recall that name.
Oh boy!
Yes. So then I remember after the adventure where I killed a bunch of skeletons and assorted shit, he called a friend back when it was 10.6 cents to make a phone call for 5 minutes, and then he charged you. And he called a friend to see if I leveled up, and I was hooked. And that was probably January of 1980. That July, my mother got me the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and an awesome set of dice. So my parents were all in, and I didn't have a Munster manual or even get the Fiend Folio for like another year and a half or so.
If you had the DMG,
I thought I don't need it. Right? You got all the monsters in the back of the DMG. Didn't explain what hit dice were, so everything had. Like, why do ogres have 4+1 for hit dice? That's 5 hit points. Why? Right? Because why? Why? I don't understand why.
We're killing everything here. This is easy.
My players were fucking running through it all, man. They really were.
So Eric, I gave you the links there. I think what happened was I don't think I'm allowed to post.
I gotta fix that somehow.
So there's 2 links there. The link to the video and the link to the Kickstarter. If you put those up there.
Yep.
Yeah, I started in '78. I had a friend who we still game together now. Dr. Joe, great guy, comes to the con every year. He was from Delaware, the more sophisticated northeastern part of the country. We were from Texas, and he said, "Have you ever heard of a game called Dungeons and Dragons?" I'm like, "No." You get to play Conan. I'm like, "Oh, Conan! I love Conan." So I'm like, "Really? That's cool." And so we went out the next day to a hobby shop because back then they didn't have game stores; they had hobby shops,
right?
And they'd sell model airplanes, and there'd always be a stand up there. They'd have D&D stuff, and so we bought the Holmes box set and then the AD&D books which were out at the time, which I believe were the Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook, and probably a few modules, and I was absolutely hooked from that moment on. So the summer of '78 was all we did every single day. This is when I was 15, so before I was driving, is we'd go to one of the other friends' house and we'd play D&D all day long. Because Texas summer, it's 100 degrees outside. There's not much you can do. And we would just play D&D all day long. So that was,
Yeah, it's 100 degrees at night too. So.
Yeah, it is. So but there's nothing. So we would just
die of heat stroke.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the main difference between the night and the day in summertime.
But yeah, that was it. So we were hooked in, and we kept playing. It's in the funny thing is, so this is one thing I really, really love about role-playing games in general, but especially Dungeons and Dragons is the original group that we had, which was myself, my younger brother, my best friend at the time, whose name was Doug, not Doug Ray, but another Doug, and then Dr. Joe, and we had a few other people too. We played D&D here at the warehouse last week, and the people I played with were my younger brother Rob, my friend Doug, and Dr. Joe, and then we had John Law joined us.
I bet Rob is a hoot.
Oh, he is, and so we've been playing together for what is that? It's 40-something years, and this and we haven't always played there at that time, but we still get together, and that's one of the great things about role playing games is it fosters these communities and these friendships that just last for decades, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful that you can get together with your same friends that you've had for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Do you guys remember how the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual in particular looked just like hardback children's books?
Well, it's
And-
because the manufacturer.
And you went $12, which was a ton of money back in 1979.
Well, Gary used a textbook manufacturer for the books,
Okay.
and that was actually really. That was very forward thinking of him. That's why there's so many of the, I mean, that's why you have so many of these books still around that are just in great shape, is because these were made to textbook specifications. And,
Well,
that was what,
but I can remember the first time I ever saw the hardback books, and it's like, this looks like a kid's book. And then, you open it up, you realize it's not, but then you see the price, it's like, wow. Well, the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, were they $12 or were they $10?
I want to say Monster Manual was $10. Player's Handbook was, well, I know the DMG was more than both of them. It was, I want to say it was
$3 more.
I believe.
15. I can't remember 15. It was 14.
Yeah.
But,
And that's like $65 or $70 in today's money. So it wasn't it was not a small amount of money.
I think what's interesting if you read the Game Wizards, it's really, I think John Peterson does a really good job of showing you how improbable a rise to fortune this hobby was, because you basically had this company that they just did war games, and they didn't even do a lot of successful war games. They did these war game digests. If they sold 200 copies, they were ecstatically happy, and they took a big chance on the brown box where they had 1,000 copies printed, because that was the most they'd ever had printed of anything. And this is a totally unknown. They didn't know if this was going to succeed or not succeed.
You can't figure out how to play a role-playing game from the white box or brown box.
Oh no, it's crazy. No, not at all.
You open up, it's just a bunch of rules. What the hell? So
that's why they hired Tim Kask, because Tim Kask wrote. They played at Gen Con the year it came out. He wrote Gary so many questions that Gary finally just said, "Look, how about if I just hire you and you can answer, and then when people ask these questions, you answer the questions, because I'm tired of answering your questions."
Well, it's even more remarkable. Again, you kids and your internets and stuff. There was no internet. There was no email. There was no. I mean, the only way you talked to somebody in another city was you called them long distance, and that wasn't. Role-playing too is very much a blue-collar working class hobby when it started. It was normal people. Because Gary was living on welfare at one point. He was a part-time cobbler, and I think, you guys have said that on your show a lot, that people in those early days never made a lot of money. And of course now,
not at all. Yeah.
They're in their,
it was extremely improbable. Yeah.
I always wanted to design games, but I couldn't actually figure out a way to eat.
I think that's optional. If you design games, eating is optional. Yes.
It turned out I actually was fortunate enough to have a little bit of talent in that area. But again, Fistful of Toes was an absolute vanity project. My co-designer, Paul Benson, and I, we've laughed. I think we actually we've sold enough copies that we actually have earned more than minimum wage. Not a lot. Not a lot. But it was, and we've sold, I think Fistful of Toes is still like an Electrum or a Gold. I mean, it's very highly rated on Wargame Vault, which is the drive-through RPG wargame thing. And we sell, I don't know what the exact split is, but we sell a sizable number of copies through Lulu. So if you want the hard copy, you get it from Lulu. If you want the PDF, you get it from Wargame Vault. We couldn't. There's no way we could have made money off that. And to be fair, I think if you actually netted out the cost of the reference materials we bought, we're probably back down to making $1 an hour. Or something.
Well, as Zach Glazer's fond of saying when I talk to him, is that there's maybe 5 people that make money in the game industry, which is probably true. Most people, as we found out from the Paizo revelations last year, those people weren't even making. They weren't even making enough money to buy their own apartment. Much less actually make a living.
That
was ridiculous. Yeah,
I don't feel bad about it.
they were staying at they were shopping at the company store. I mean, it's basically like coal miners in the 1800s.
Well,
they were all having.
You ask yourself why people on the far left think that businesses are so exploitative. They just assume all these things, and it's like, okay, well, look at businesses that the far left people have created, and you understand. I mean, yeah, that was literally like something out of the 19th century.
As I think, as we said at the time, or even now, it's actually that's the case for having a union. I'm not a big union guy, but that's exactly why you have a union. Is what was going on at Paizo, because it was slave labor. It was basically slave laborers. What it boiled down to is, hey, you should be happy working. You live in Seattle, you should be happy making $30,000 a year, because that'll get you a shed. I mean, somebody's backyard for.
Well, didn't they own like the apartments and stuff that
they did?
They have like a company.
It's a company store. Yeah, they ran the company store, and not only that, from what Eric could probably remembers this too, that I think they were living 2 to 3 to 4 to an apartment. Even they were actually even sharing the apartments.
Soul to the company store.
Oh, good.
So I can now think of a Paizo parody video.
But that's the problem with game.
Okay, I got to stop.
Yeah, but gaming has always been, you do it for the love of the game. I mean, I said, if you read Game Wizards, none of those guys were making money. They were super happy, and they would print up, let's say, I don't know, 500 or 600 copies of some kind of naval of Don't Give Up the Ship. They were, and the sales would go like this: they'd sell a lot initially, and then they had a long tail. Then you would sell like maybe 2 or 3 copies a month for the next 5 or 6 years. So all your money was up front. You wanted to make all your money in the first 1 or 2 months of selling something, because after that it was just a long, you would sell 1 or 2 copies at conventions after that. D&D was the first game the TSR had that broke that mold. They sold a lot up front, and then they started building. They started building an audience, which they never did with any war games. War games didn't do that. You saw
Zach had the theory, and I thought it was. I'd never thought of it. I think he's absolutely right. He had the theory that one of the reasons D&D was so popular is that winters are long, dark, and cold in Wisconsin.
Well, they actually had a con back then called it was Winter Festival or Winter something, and that was the whole point of the con, was that, look, we're all stuck here in the snow, we can't go anywhere, let's have a con during the winter because we're all trapped and there's nothing else to do. I want to say that was Winter Fantasy, whatever one they had back then.
Yeah.
And that was why they had it, because you're just trapped, you're just absolutely snowed in for 6 months of the year. Let's make the best of it and play games.
Yeah, at least in Texas, when school was out in the summertime, you didn't go outside if you could avoid it, because it's just it's too hot to think. And so, but to this day, I'm just amazed in how much time and energy I had in those old days, because I would have a nervous breakdown if I tried to run a game as complex.
We had stuff back then, that's what, you kind of always look. I told my wife, I said, I'd love to retire someday and go back to the age of 17, 18, when I was running, like, one day I'd run a D&D game, then a Gamma World game, then a Call of Cthulhu game. I mean, we had like 5 or 6 games going a week. And I see people that do that. I just blows my mind that people can do that, because I don't know where you find the time to do that, and then to work, and then have family. And, I just don't see where you can do that. But I know people that do that. So I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we did the thing. I think everybody did it. We rotated houses. We spend the night at somebody's house every week.
Oh yeah,
the houses. My house was always popular because we had a pool table, and so we could play D&D on the pool table. We had a big table and stuff. And you'd start playing about 5 o'clock on Friday, and you'd go all night and crash. 10 or 11 on Saturday morning. You'd crash, sleep, till early afternoon. Get up. Saturday about 5 o'clock, hit it again, and
we did.
that was the thing, is that people today.
You found out what moms serve the best snacks because because you're like, oh, we're going to Doug's house or Bob's house because the snacks are just awesome over there. So we'll get apple. Yeah, we'll get the best snacks at that house.
My mother had a very realistic view of things. Her attitude was she would much rather me be at the house where she knew where I was. So she was a very good hostess. She put
my mother.
She laid out. Well, because before I discovered gaming, when I was actually in junior high, I got into a fair amount of trouble. Trouble that really honestly could have led to some bad things if it had continued. And I discovered role playing when I was in 9th grade, and that just kind of evened it all out, and I stopped doing some of the stupid things I'd been doing. But yeah, it was great. And different parents had different reactions too. My parents were extremely ambivalent. My mother was a beauty pageant contestant. My dad was an athlete guy. I mean, they're like, "What the hell are you doing home every weekend with these other guys? What are y'all doing out?" And so they my mother was fine with it. My father was completely just not understanding it. But my parents never bought me a single gaming product.
Really?
Yeah, mine neither.
When you talked about your mom, did you see the twitch of
that was it? They got me into it, and everything else was on me. But they got me my initial. I still have
my grandmother did buy me Chivalry and Sorcery First Edition and this first source book.
Oh, well, damn!
She's the only family member that ever bought me a gaming thing, and what a great I've still got those. You haven't lived till you've tried to read 4-point type. In Chivalry and Sorcery.
Oh, that was one of the worst things about those old FGU books. Is the oh boy the typeset was just terrible on those.
Well, if you look at those pages, you can tell that what they did is they took a TypeScript pages, and pasted them up two by two, and then shot them down with a stat camera. Because they weren't even typed.
Oh yeah. The
titles were rub-on letter set letters, and the text was typed on a typewriter. But the net result of that is you're looking at about 5-point type, and you reach a certain age where it's like, all right.
Yeah, no, I gave up on that. That's why my Arduino stuff. It's like, thank God for the reprints from Emperor's Choice. I can read that shit.
Yeah. I'm at an age now where I find myself, I'll get a physical book of something and it's too small, and I'll actually reach down and try to expand the size like I do on my iPad. It's like, oh wait,
no,
it's not going to work.
No, this is actually a physical book, so I'll just have to hold it up. But so that's interesting because we're contemporaries. I got started in '79, so
there you go. We're all about the same time.
Yeah, discovered actually. I got started with wargaming and then discovered role playing later, probably 1980 for the role playing.
Okay.
But I was actually in our local hobby store, like you were talking about, looking for model rocketry stuff because I was wanting to build I was wanting to build a model rocket with a warhead. So anyway.
Oh well, you got it.
So I'm walking through to get to the model rocketry, and they had just reset the store. They moved everything around. And I walked past this rack and stopped, and there was a copy of Ogre, the original metagaming Ogre.
Oh yeah.
And I had seen an ad for that in the Space Gamer like a couple weeks earlier, and they had a really evocative ad. It was like the description of the command post being heavily defended, missile tanks and powered infantry and powered armor. Very very cool description. And then the Ogre. And I went, that's what I read in Starlog. So I picked this. And it was $1.95, so I could afford it. So I bought it, and I think I bought GEV too.
Oh,
I took it home and popped it open and cut the counters out with scissors,
Right.
And then played those things all day long. Oh, bought a couple issues of Space Gamer as well. Man, I was rich.
Oh, yeah.
I got $10 or something. Because anyway, and so the magazine showed me there was this whole hobby, that this wasn't some odd aberration, and I was hooked. Then a few months later, a buddy of mine came over and said, "Hey, have you heard about Squad Leader?" Ooh, Squad Leader. What is that? And so, but yeah, it was a fun way to get started. That's for sure. You kids with your 5th edition and your computer games and we didn't have computer dungeon generators.
That was called nothing, Tie Beard. You know nothing.
Nothing. But yeah. Well, gentlemen, I guess I'm gonna have to go to bed at some point.
Well, I think we probably need to shut this down because
Mike and I are back tomorrow night. Man, this was
we got 2 hours tomorrow night. We did 2.5 2 hours 40 minutes tonight.
I don't know if I actually added any great insight into this, but if I were
you did.
If I were a Vegas odds maker, I would not.
People are tired of hearing Eric and I just bullshit. So they got to hear you bullshit too. So
well, what I've heard of y'all, I think y'all are seeing it correctly. I mean, this is and it Wizards apparently tried to be nice and tried to be classy, and because I don't want to look like bullies. I can I can appreciate that, but I think at this point, these pleadings probably cost them 30-40 grand easy.
Jesus.
And when a company spends that kind of money, they're serious.
Right.
If the lawyers had to do all the research and stuff here, and I'm sure they did, it could be even more than that.
And the longer it goes, the more expensive it gets, I'm assuming.
Oh
yeah, it's not. I'll put it this way: Wizards is not going to get tired of paying the costs before the plaintiff does. I don't think. So.
No, there you go.
Alrighty, guys.
We appreciate. Well, thanks for showing up. We appreciate you showing up and just not just lobbing comments from the peanut gallery. You actually, got on here and talked to us. We appreciate that.
Right.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I'm a big fan of your show on Wednesday. I do actually try to remember to come on time, but
No, it's okay, dude.
That's a recurring.
Listen, this was awesome, and again, nobody wants to necessarily always hear the "I'm not a lawyer, but I don't even play one on TV" opinions of Mike and I. We actually had.
I think y'all were seeing it right.
Okay, well, that's and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think y'all. I mean, I don't think you have to be a legal expert to see what's going on here, and if, Wizards can. I'm pretty sure Wizards are going to be able to show that their version of the facts are accurate, and when they do that, it's going to be
painful.
What did Beretta say back in the? That's the name of that tune.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Eric, we need to get back on that secret project, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, no. This is a terrible idea.
No,
such a terrible idea.
But the secret project is good, but I want to see your football game get.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a great play test. And even my wife enjoyed it. And she only does football to drink beers and
I let my wife play it. After we played it at Dallas RPG Con, I let my wife play it, and she's like, "This is fun." And my wife has no interest
in a lot of fun
sports or any of that.
Balance, but folks, we'll bring Ty back one day to talk about this and just talk more gaming stuff.
Yes,
legal stuff. So I'm going to wrap this up again. Huge thanks to Ty.
Thanks to
the live stream audience. You guys have been great. Your questions were great. Your comments were great. We couldn't get to all of them, but such is the curse.
Did Zach not show up?
Zach did not show up. So Zach.
No, of course he didn't. No, he's big time now.
He's in VR right now. He's getting a new high score in VR racquetball or something like that. Just saying. Don't know for sure, but I'm just gonna say.
That's
folks. We are still in the midst of the world of the pandemic. Even if you're in New York State, oh my God, today. No more vax mandate to go eating in restaurants and bars and, wherever. But
masks are going to be the leisure suit of the 21st century.
Oh, my God.
By 1981, nobody ever admitted to owning a leisure suit.
You're always going to have a mask in your pocket.
Polyester pants, yeah.
If I decide I might need a mask if I want to go in the mass transit. You still need that shit. Listen, I'm going to say, use your common sense. I know there's a few jackasses out there that are upset that I don't say everybody should get vaxxed. You know what? How about this? You're an adult. Use your common sense. Be safe. Be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well. Mike and I are back tomorrow.
Oh, my God. I'm tired. I gotta rest.
And if you thought that this could have been a potential train wreck, we've got...
Oh, we have McGarty. We have a Silver Bullet tomorrow. Silver Bullet
So
boys.
it's going to be a real fucking train wreck. I'm just going to guarantee
it
you
will
that
be.
right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
So join us for another train wreck. This wasn't a train wreck. This was good. But this was tied.
Yes,
So
thank you for hanging with us, folks.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, gentlemen. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
We'll have to talk. Oh, you know what? I meant to show y'all something. I guess I'll have to show it to you next. Oh no, here it is. Oh, okay.
Whoa, hey, whoa.
Wait.
Don't put your pants back on. No, we don't want to see that.
Hold on.
It's not that kind of show.
Don't do a Dane Spawn and like.
I've got a stamp here, and look what it does.
Top secret classified information.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you 9?
Alexander did when he beheld.
Are you 9 years old? Are you 9 years old? Or are you an adult?
Mike.
Well, I am at a point in my life where I can have a custom-made top secret stamp, buddy.
God.
Jason Elliott, that's for you. You might want to reach out.
Yep.
All right.
Now, of course,
later, everybody.
The espionage role-playing game is going to
There you go.
Point,
all right, folks. Oh, I might be doing something with Rasmussen, but that's a whole other top secret project. All right. Just because it's top secret came up, I think I throw that out there. All right, folks.
Later.